Hello, Redditors. Hello, Challenge fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Challenge Redditors React Podcast. We had a fantastic episode last night. Lots to talk about, almost too much to talk about, some would say. But I can't do this on my own. I may be your host, Levi Hall, but I cannot do this without my co-host, without my co-handler, without my ally. I'm spying on him right now. George, how are you doing?
Before we start, I'm going to correct a massive injustice from last week. Kyle. There. I felt, how did we go for an episode without mentioning him? Damn MTV and giving him a below the profile episode. But I think we'll be discussing him a bit more today. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and we've got a lot to run down today, George. We are going to be joined, as always this season, by a guest panelist from Reddit. And we will be talking all about last night's episode of the challenge, Spies, Lies, and Allies. But we have to start with our favourite segment and probably our listeners' least favourite segment. It's the banter segment, George. Any banter from this week?
Yes, I went for drinks on Tuesday night, which was lovely. And then had the combination of like 7 exceptionally sugary cocktails, which we found out were better if you mix said sugary cocktails together. So I had something called a Rumble in the Jungle, which is rum based, which I very enjoyed, and something with watermelon in it, which I had so many of them I couldn't remember what was in it. And then got home and had a very, very stressful night's sleep because I had such a sugar high. Woke up, felt fine, and got my personal best in a 10K run.
Because you were still just running on the fumes.
Literally, I pretty much self-doped. But I got 37:42, which is for a 10K.
Nice. Well, just let everyone...
It's about
That's
8
really
miles.
good, actually. Sorry, I just thought that just processed in my head. That is really fast. Because I'm thinking I do a 5K in about, well, my personal best is 23:21.
That's pretty good.
So to do a 10K in that time is unbelievable. Just for our listeners, by the way, when he says self-doped, he's talking about the sugar that he had from the cocktail.
Oh, yeah. I only use performance-debilitating drugs because it's funnier. That's an Olympics I would watch, by the way. It's just like, here's some mushrooms. Now run to that spot. Take like 7 hours. It'd be hilarious.
Did you get the sugar crash, though, the sugar coma, or was it all just the sugar high?
I managed to ride it out. So I think I was on a bit of endorphin high off the run, to be honest, and that corrected it. So when I crash after that, I'm going to feel really miserable.
Well, that is an unbelievable time, powered by that unbelievable sugar. But you know what was not unbelievable? My performance in this week's Levi Challenge. I tried, George, is all I'll say.
It's so hard, isn't it? So should we remind the viewers what I had to make you do?
Yes, so
and where they can watch your attempt.
Yes, so George challenged me for the Levi Challenge this week to do something called the Sally Challenge. So there is a song by Moby called Flower, George. It's called Flower. It's not called Sally. I spent 7 days looking for a song called Sally by Moby, and I couldn't find it. So yes, there's a song called Flower by Moby, and it's like Sally up, Sally down, Sally squat, Sally up, Sally down. And the whole idea is you get in a press up position, and when they say up, you go up. When you say down, you go down. But if there's words in between, you just have to hold that position. I managed 42 seconds out of what, 3 minutes 14. So just over a quarter, which isn't too bad, not too good either. And when I say just over a quarter, just less than a quarter. But I won't go too much into that, because if you want to see that challenge, you can check it out on our Instagram feed at Challenge React. What you got for me this week, George?
So I realized I've been accidentally recreating Battle of the Seasons, because we've had a physical one, which was the Moby Challenge. We've had an endurance one, which is Everesting. So you've now got mental strategy, and I'm adding one, eating, to the list. So I'm going to let you pick your own category, and you can then go from there.
Huh?
So you can pick mental strategy or eating for your next challenge.
Okay, so I'm not picking on eating because I'm currently on a calorie deficit diet. So
this wouldn't impact your calories.
I'm really worried that you're going to make me eat like animals. Not animals, obviously. I eat like chicken and beef and stuff. But like insects.
No. Maybe.
Oh, I don't know. I don't like that you've given me a choice. I actually hate that you've given me a choice. This is the worst thing you could have done.
Why do you want to think about it throughout the episode and tell me at the end?
Yes.
Do you want to man? Okay. Or do you want to man up and pick one now?
No. Hold on. What are my options? I'm going to man up and pick one.
Mental, strategy, and eating.
Have you actually got one in your head for each one?
I really hope so. I wasn't going to forget better at making it up on the fly.
You're not this prepared. Okay, I'm going to go for... Aren't mental and strategy the same?
Well, that's what I thought on Battle of the Seasons, but they're not.
Okay, let's go strategy. I'm not going for eating.
Okay, fair enough. So strategy, I don't really like this one. It was basically to make you solve a Rubik's Cube in a really cold bath. Actually, I do like that one. Yeah, you have to do that.
Okay, yeah. What?
You can wear swimming trunks. You have to run a cold bath, get in and solve a Rubik's Cube, or you have to quit. I rewatched Rivals 3 where they have to do the build a tower in an ice bath challenge.
I don't know how to solve a Rubik's Cube, so this could genuinely take me hours.
Okay. I'll
do it. I'll try it.
Really?
How cold does this bath have to be?
You are such a good sport. Cold tap only.
Okay, so I don't have to put ice in or anything like that.
No.
Okay, and then the other thing is swimming trunks, and I'm going to wear a top as well.
Swimming trunks on top is absolutely fine. You wear a wetsuit if you want, actually. That'll make it funnier.
Do not have a wetsuit, but what I will say is when I film this, I will film this on a time lapse because it could genuinely take over 4 hours.
I can't believe you're actually doing this. I have a backup endurance one in case you said no, but you're such a good sport. Good work, Levi.
I'm just, this is my training for the challenge. Is to endure these horrible things that you're putting me through, but also I get to endure some lovely things as well, don't I, George, with our brand new segment.
Yeah, so I think 2 weeks ago you said, I love Emmy, I'm going to listen to some of her rap. And then last week I asked you and you hadn't. Have you this week, Levi?
Yes, I have. Not only have I listened to one of her songs, I think maybe we call this segment Emmy's EPs. So I listen to one song each week and I critique. But yeah, not only have I listened to one of her songs numerous times, I have also, wait for this, made the discovery that Emmy was in a girl group on X Factor Romania. Yeah, you got that right. Emmy was in a girl group.
That's really niche.
On X Factor Romania. So the song that I have listened to of Emmy's is, and I'm just going to get it up here. It's called, and it's actually the song I was listening to while I was waiting for you to come on the Zoom. It's called Hannah Montana by Emmy Alupe. As you can tell, I'm 1 minute and 14 seconds through. I'm not going to play it because I don't want to get hit with any form of copyright strikes. But
no, we've had quite enough of those.
Without sounding like Louis Walsh, who our British listeners will know as the old guy that sits on the end of the judging table on X Factor UK, who ages backwards, and our American viewers won't know at all. She reminds me of a Romanian Iggy Azalea.
Okay. I like her more than Iggy Azalea, and I'm not a huge fan of her. Although I've realised I have flip-flopped on Emmy quite a lot, so I probably like her this week.
So as far as the song, it's all in Romanian, except for 2 words, Hannah Montana. So I'm going to assume that the song is about Hannah Montana. I don't know what it's about, but as far as the beat, the production value is very good. I like that it's got quite a slow but also pumping beat with some wonderful kind of sound effects in it. I would describe it as a very good track for a spin class if you're doing a slow climb out of the seat. And as you know, I love my spin classes, so you couldn't get a bigger compliment than that. So Emmy, love the track Hannah Montana.
I like the way you're pairing it with exercise, like most people pair wine with food. This is a good level of review, actually. I'm impressed by this, mate. Put a lot of thought into it. More thought than I put into that challenge. I made that up on the fly.
So yeah, what I would say is, Emmy, really like the track. It's my favorite one so far. It's also the only one that I've listened to. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the continuation of Emmy's EPs and listening to another song next week. And why don't we listen to...
How many songs has she got?
Probably enough for about 6 weeks.
Okay, cool.
But the one that we're listening to next week, or this week, ready for next week, is called Karma. So yes, that will be fun. And then if I like it, I will sing it to Brian's dog.
Nice. Also, thanks, Freddie, foreshadowing. That actually helps with the episode we're going to go into. But before the episode, we have to go talk about a poll in the corner, don't we?
Yes, we do. So we'll talk about your massive poll and the Redditor's Corner. So tell us about your massive poll this week, please, George.
No, I'm going to tell you about Redditor's Corner first because I found a brilliant one just before the pod. I really like the whole contestants in real life thing because I think Alan Aguirre said in the first one, he just can't stop thinking about Nelson doing day-to-day activity. Well, someone called AC Cloyd, that's actually a really good name, strong, spotted a challenger this morning while walking their dog.
Oh.
Who do you think it was?
Wait, who was walking the dog? The challenger or the Redditor?
The challenger was walking the dog. The challenger was standing on their patio with another person just hanging out and talking.
I like to think that it was Ed, but the dog was walking him.
Oh, that's a brilliant mental image. Do you watch BoJack Horseman?
We go through this every single week. I watch no TV but the challenge and sport.
Another very, very good Reddit comment this week was that there's a character there called Mr. Peanut Buster, who is just a very friendly dog, and that is like the life embodiment of Ed. So that was also a very, very good shout for Redditor's Corner this week. A couple of other things like that.
Hold on. Who did they spot?
Oh, sorry. Well, their friend was hanging out and talking, and if I say I'm shocked this person can do two things at once, does that give you a clue?
It could be anyone.
True, actually. It was in Texas.
Nelly T.
It was indeed. First comment, you should ask him for scuba lessons. I enjoyed that.
Can I just say, my HomePod, when I said that, for some reason just went, mm-hmm.
Love the fact you've got someone to agree with you on the pod. Because I'd always agree with you. And then just a couple of other Redditor Corner ones. The return of vote for your favorite episode, favorite moment and favorite character of each episode is out. I really enjoyed that during Total Madness. So I think they usually release them a week after. So I think Corey Lay had a very, very good show in the first week. I don't think I've seen episode 2 yet for them. I'm going to dig that one out. But yeah, keep your eye out for those. Please vote on their polls if you can. It's really, really good for a pulse check of who the Reddit's enjoying. And now let's just go to my 2 massive polls this week.
Oh, he's been erecting it twice.
I'm getting older, mate. I've got to enjoy that while I can.
Are you 30 yet?
Sorry. No, October.
When's the birthday?
Oh, we'll use my banter section for next week will be my birthday plans. I think you'll find them quite funny. You're obviously invited.
Okay. Oh, sweet. When is it?
27th of October. It's year and half term, but it's not going to be on the 29th.
Oh, nice. When you said it on the Devin podcast, you made it seem like it was like this month. So I've been thinking the whole time, should I wish Georgia happy birthday today? Should I wish it today?
Damn it. I should have left you with that, so you just have to keep guessing when it was. So this was actually quite a good poll this week for what was coming up, because it was I thought we had quite a rookie central episode this week, but the poll I did a few days ago was, which of all the rookies with limited screen time do you want to see more of? So I count people like Michelle, Corey Lay, Ed as having had, and Esther as having had quite a lot of screen time already. Because they've got a bit of a moment. They've been in elimination. So your option, so we've had 2,116 votes this week, and your top 3 were Emmanuel winning by quite a long way with 684. Tommy got 451, and then Tasha with 316, and the other 3 all knocking around the 200 mark with Priscilla, Jeremiah, and Hughie.
Well, those results staged well, but we'll get more into that later on in the podcast.
They did indeed. A couple of other ones.
We'll get into in the podcast is whether or not we're saying Emmanuel's name properly. We'll discuss that a bit later, because it turns out Devin says it a very different way. And your second massive poll.
Yeah, Devin must be right. My second massive poll, I think I got downvoted for because people thought it was such a stupid question. And to be honest, when I look back on it, it probably was. But I was rewatching Rivals 2. And realised that is absolute prime CT, and probably weakest physically Wes has ever been on a challenge. I think when he comes back for Battle of the Seasons, when he's on Battle of the Seasons and when he's on War of the World 2, he's put on a bit more muscle. I know he gets beaten by Bear in War of the Worlds 2, but he's ill, so give him that. But the thing was, if
he had a suppository up his bum.
Oh yes, you did make that a running joke that I didn't enjoy. Very hard to run with a suppository, by the way.
Yeah, it makes things a bit runny, doesn't it? Anyway,
and it was what if CT and Wes went against Johnny and Frank in that double hall brawl? Now I thought this would be closer because Johnny and Frank both about similar weight. One would definitely overpower Wes. CT obviously is by far the MVP of that, but if you've ever fought like 2-on-1, it's really hard to win, as you see with CT in the Kyle and
JP.
Thank you, the JP challenge. But he, CT, absolute overwhelming winner with 674 against 47. So a massive landslide. As someone who war gained what that elimination would have gone by, it would have been CT versus Frank blocking, and CT would have just barreled through him, taken Johnny out as well, and Wes would have strolled over and hit the bell. So yeah, probably a bit of a dumb question for me to ask, to be fair, but I enjoyed the views of the Redditors, as always.
And that is one thing that we always say here at Redditors React is engage in the discussion over on Reddit, because that's what we're all about, carrying on that discussion about the challenge, but also discussing with new people from the Reddit, because this week, George, joining us in our third chair is someone that we've not had on the podcast before. So previously this season, we've had people like Tay join us who have been on the podcast, or people like Alan Aguirre, who I'm sure everyone knows. But we have got Jake coming on today. He goes by RakeGeeky1 on Reddit, and you may know him from his edgic post. Now he's going to explain to us all about what challenge edgic is. I've had a conversation with him about it. It seems really interesting. I know you're really keen on it. So I guess without further ado, let's welcome Jake to the podcast. Jake, how are you doing? Lovely to have you here.
Awesome, Levi. Thank you guys so much both for having me on. I'm very, very excited to be here and talking challenge.
Well, you sent a DM to me a while ago, saying that you listened to the podcast, you'd love to get involved. I had a look at the work that you're doing on Reddit, which is absolutely incredible. I know George absolutely loves it because he's a bit of a data nerd. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what this challenge edgic is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the concept edgic, which stands for a combination of editing and logic, right? It originated in Survivor, which during the pandemic, while I finished all the challenges and there's nothing else to rewatch, I started to watch some Survivor. And the concept in general ideas is that if you analyze the edit, you can try and figure out storylines, outcomes, potential winners, everything just based off what the editors are saying, right? The editors know exactly what's going to happen in advance. So their role is to create a show that sort of caters to the outcome that they know is coming, right? From episode one, from minute one, they know who the winner is, who's coming in second, who's coming in third. And so there are little ways in which they depict the players to sort of analyze how they're going to do in the game. Now, it's much different in Survivor because Survivor, there's no final challenge that's endurance based, right? So someone like take Big T, for example, last in Double Agents, she had an edit that made it seem like she could absolutely win the final. And then we saw in some of the endurance challenges that unless the finals changed, the edit is showing us that she's not ready for that, to win that final yet. So it's a little bit different in the challenge, but the idea is essentially that you take everything that the editors are telling us and you look at it through an extremely over analytical lens, something that is totally unnecessary. But for me, it makes it really fun because it turns it into a game a little bit. And I'm able to analyze, okay, why did they show us that? Why did they use this person's confessional here? Why did they use this person's here? And it makes it a whole lot of fun for me. And so when I started reading that with Survivor, there was one person in particular, I forget his name, but he has a website inside Survivor and they write in-depth edgic posts about each character. And I was like, man, no one does this for the challenge. And I love writing.
They do now.
They do now. Exactly. So I started doing it a little bit during Double Agents last season and I just fell in love with it. And so now it's something that every week I look forward to. It takes a lot of work. I watch the episodes like 3 or 4 times to try and catch everything. but it makes it more fun for me to watch the show. It's a really, really fun lens.
You're going to make Levi look like an amateur. He does it twice for this pod. You're doing it 4. Levi, you need to step up your game. But just as I understand it, though, it's a combination of screen time merged with positivity, and that's how you judge people, right?
Right. So it's a screen time mixed with sort of trying to figure out the way, but just there's a rating system involved, right? And so every person is rated on 2 levels, right? Which is for visibility, and then they're like behavioral rating in terms of what kind of edit they were shown. And so a good example of this has been Tori from this season, right? Tori, which I'm sure we'll talk about her in this episode and everything. But Tori is a good example of a complex personality, which is one of the ratings. In all of the episodes, Tori has been well-rounded. We hear her strategies, her alliance, her romantic involvement. We hear from her on a variety of different levels. Then you compare her to somebody like Casey, who for the first 2 episodes was practically invisible, right? She did have a storyline established with Nani, and that sort of made her under the radar, which is one of the ratings. So there's 4 different ratings, and then there's also a tone in which they are showed, right? Another example of this would be Emmanuel. He has received extremely positive tone from Devin, constantly reminding us that he's a threat and all these things. That's positive tone. As for the way I interpret that is the editor saying that, hey, somebody who's a smart, reliable narrator in Devin, they are telling the viewers to watch out for Emmanuel, right? And so for me as a viewer, I am now watching out for Emmanuel. So it's sort of a combination of exactly what you mentioned of sort of their behavior and whether they are being shown strategically and being shown to be game aware, being there for the right reasons, and then the tone, which really comes from how other people are talking about them or the light that they're shown in on the episode, right?
You called something out in your last summary, which is like second person visibility or something.
Yes.
That was one of the ones I didn't quite get. So thank you, Levi, for getting Jake on here so he can explain it to me, because I didn't know he was the guest until about 2 hours ago. But yeah, can you explain that to me and how that impacts someone's edgic analysis?
Right, absolutely. So second person visibility, the edgic author that I followed in Survivor was big on that. And I naturally have become big on that as well. And it really helped me out in Double Agents. And one of the ideas is that when you're hearing about a cast member or a player from other cast members and players, it's something to watch out for, because they can say anything they want in their confessionals and depict themselves in any light. For example, Fessy last season was depicting himself in the light of, I'm the strongest competitor in the challenge house. You can't beat me, all these things. That's not how we were seeing Fessy from the other cast members' view at all. And so
the strongest douche. That was pretty
exactly.
much
Right. And so with Fessy, the entire cast, I mean, each episode, it seemed like we heard at least one confessional about how bad of a partner he was. There was even times where like the edit would directly contradict him. If he was saying that like, me and Nani are going to work well together, I want to run this final with Nani. And literally the subsequent confessional is Nani saying that Fessy's a bad partner. I don't want to run the final with him. And for me, what that shows is the second person visibility kind of gives a clue to what the other players in the game are thinking about. And if it's somebody who is a reliable narrator who so far has been what they say is shown and is accurate to what's shown, then it's something that we should watch out for. Cam was a very reliable narrator last season. She was one of the stars of the show from episode 1. There's a couple of specific scenes where she talks about Amber B and how these alliances Amber B has and how Amber B's smarter than she looks. And these things, to me, that set off a little bulb in my head that was like, I needed a second female that wasn't Cam, because Cam was clearly the female contender above anybody else, miles ahead. I needed somebody else. And it's like, okay, if the most reliable narrator in the show is telling us that this girl is somebody to watch out for, and she's not just saying that, setting her up to be eliminated, right? Which is how it happens. Like Michaela received a lot of that episode 1. She's smart, she's strong, all this, but then she went home, right? So if a player receives the second person visibility and then doesn't go home, to me, that's why I look at it as that means something, right? That's something that's significant to me.
So I've got 3 questions because I think this is going to be a really, really fun episode of the podcast because I think you're going to come at things with a really kind of logical view while George and I piss about as usual. So my first question, I'm guessing if you're doing your edgics and it's kind of a game for you to guess, you don't do spoilers, do you?
No. So I am unspoiled. And so I have an Instagram account for Challenge Edgic, and I was talking to the Challenge Stats Instagram account, and he was like, dude, you should delete this because I had turned off comments. Like, I'm trying to do the best I can to try to stay unspoiled. And so far I know nothing. The only thing I know in advance is that I did like research some of the players. So like I looked at Emmanuel, and especially during the global activation thing, it shows that Emmanuel is smart. He's strategic. He knows what he's doing. So for me, I looked at him, and I also know in his Survivor show, it's like 5.5 months or something. So I know some of the roles, but I am completely unspoiled on the outcomes, anything like that. And if unfortunately I do run into that this season, which is a fear of mine, then my plan is to stop writing, because the minute I write with a bias, with a spoiled opinion, I'm basically telling you what's going to happen, right? So I'm totally unspoiled, and I'm doing everything to keep it that way. I block stories, I unfollow the only challenge accounts I follow are podcasts like you and Challenge Stats, any unspoiled pages.
I think that's the same with us as well, is like we're unspoiled, 1, for our own enjoyment of watching a show, but 2, it is impossible to do a podcast where you're talking about things that are happening and things that you think are happening if you know what's going to happen. My second question, and everyone can get the bingo card out now. Should George and I be worried that Kyle was non-existent last week?
I was worried, and Kyle was my top contender after episode 1. And then I was like, dude, I made these predictions. I was like, Kyle and Amanda are going to be our narrators. They're going to be great. And then Kyle came out episode 2 and literally didn't say a word. So it was a little concerning, but then some people made some comments on my last post, and they said, hey, remember, we have more rookies than we do vets in the game right now. They could very easily just be showcasing what they have until Kyle takes over and all this. And I do think that's true to some extent. However, that being said, this is a season with no bananas. This is a season with no Wes. And this is a season where CT has a total of like 4 confessionals total across the global activation episode included. He's averaging 1 per episode right now. And that, or something like that. And to me, it's kind of concerning that him and Kyle aren't being featured more right off the bat. Right. And so it's crazy to bet against either one of them and their longevity in the game, but it does concern me a little bit. That being said, though, he was right back to his ways this episode. So it could just be a cool down. There could be, I talked about it a little bit in my post last week. He also just had like nothing to do with the episode. He really wasn't involved. Amanda wasn't either, but she had some ties with like Fessy and Ashley and all that. So I'm not too worried yet, but if this becomes a theme, if he has another invisible episode, that would be really concerning to me.
Well, there's only one way to find out if Kyle has an invisible episode, and that's first of all for us to watch it, which we've done, and second of all for us to discuss it. Now, last week, when Kyle very sadly disappeared from our screens, Ed and Emmy won their elimination against Kels and Tracy. This then led to some new team partnerships being formed. So we had Emmy and number 1 draft pick, let's go, Devin Walker, and Ed and Tori, which left Michelle and Corey Lay being paired together in an all-rookie partnership. Now, I know that's quite a lot to digest. It was a tongue twister for me to say. So let's see what happened when the challengers got back to the house. So when Amber asked Emmy why she picked Devin, she basically said, because he put his hand up. But no, seriously, she picked him because he is really smart. Now, I know we joke about him being number 1 draft pick. Good choice. What do you think? What do you think, George? Oh, George, have you topped up your bottle of wine?
Well, yes, but it's now next to me, so I will save time on the pod, so I don't have to keep running back to the bar to top it up.
Take that one off the bingo card.
We do need to discuss that game for next week. I really think we should play it. So, again, you can cut and paste what I said last time. I get what they're doing. Devin's popular. He's got good links, but he's not a massive physical threat. So you get a bit of safety without putting a target on your back for someone who takes out a strong pair. Again, it just makes sense. And also, when you ask me about Tori, copy and paste what I said last week. It's the same opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you talk about Tori, because actually Tori is also number 1 draft pick, but she just doesn't shout about it. And they have this interesting scene where Tori, and I say interesting, it's just there. Tori and Ed are getting to know each other over a lovely bowl of cabbage. Now, you know I like to throw in things from the Challenge Aftermath with the wonderful Devin Simone. And Amanda likes to spill the tea on there. And apparently, Tori had her eyes on young Edward, despite the fact he did not reciprocate. He had a girlfriend at the time, which Tori was not aware of. But yeah, it was a romantic cabbage date. What do you think of Ed, Jake?
I like this kid, and I honestly didn't think I was going to at first, and I feel like I've heard that said a few times around. I like his energy. He kind of reminds me of Jay from Total Madness, when just that I'm here, but without like the crybaby little bit part where like I love Jay, but he was like, he didn't get it. Ed was like, yeah, I get it. You threw me in once. Even Coriel has been kind of like, why are you throwing me in again? Why? And Ed's just kind of like, let's go. Like, I'm ready. So I like this guy. I like it. I like his energy for a rookie. I think he's coming in the right way.
I definitely feel like, based on what he's shown in just the couple of episodes that he's been in, he potentially could be a mainstay because he's got that energy. He seems to be very popular amongst the challengers, seems to be popular amongst the fans. He seems to love what he's doing, and he's not taking anything overly personally. He understands it's a game. He's here to play. I really like him. I'm looking forward to seeing hopefully more and more of him this season.
You know what's interesting? People tend to compare people they want to stay on the show to people who are already established because they've got that reputation. I have now seen Ed compared to Hunter, Paulie, Johnny. Didn't have Jay before though. Jay. That's a really interesting take because I see where you're coming from. He's like Jay dialed up to 11. If you get if you give Jay a shitload of speed, that's Ed. But there's a couple more I've even forgotten. But generally, it's probably a correction because we've not had a really fun season for a while, and Ed just fundamentally seems fun. But I think you're right. I think we've potentially got someone who's going to be around for a long time, which is great because he seems fantastic for the game.
He seems fun. And he said he had a quote. Sorry, he had a quote during this episode where it was like, winners win. And he's won an elimination. He's won a daily challenge. He's right. When you're a competitive player, you know there's a certain level of just, you know how to win, right? It comes, that's what CT and all those guys, they know how to do, they know how to win. And I think he's shown that he's a competitor. So I like this guy.
I also think, looking at it from a psychological point of view, you know, a lot of the times you'll see them throw in someone like Ashley to rattle her because they know they can. If you're someone like Ed and you get thrown into elimination, you're like, yeah, let's go. I'm excited for this one. People aren't going to throw you in because they're like, okay, it's not going to affect the way he's going to play. You know, I'm Team Ed. Come on, Edward. Screw Jacob. I'm with Edward.
I can't believe you just made a Twilight reference on the pod, and you told me you don't watch. I've
never actually seen it. I just know it was a thing at some point. Speaking of someone else that's a bit of a mainstay, came on as an underdog, now continues to be on the show. That's Big T. And the one thing we always say about Big T is she's lovely. Her social game is amazing. Everyone seems to love her. This seems to be causing a bit of an issue for her because Fessy says, look, we didn't tell you about the plan because we don't know where you stand. We don't know if you're in an alliance with Kells. You seem to be talking with him a lot. You're talking with the rookies a lot. And Corey says, look, socially, Big T gets on best with the rookies. So where do her loyalties lie? Essentially putting her at the bottom of the Vets Alliance. What are we thinking here? Is Big T in trouble? Let's go with the edgic.
I worry for Big T. She had a quiet first few episodes, which for someone who's a narrator as good as her, that worried me a little bit. Not damning, right? Because like all other vets, it's a rookie heavy season. But just from a logic perspective, I agree with you. She's on the bottom of the vets. And so she has to make some sort of move. Otherwise, if they actually vets were to get it down and eliminate all the other rookies, she would be the first on the totem pole to go. Now, I don't think that's going to actually happen, but she is the candidate. And it makes sense from the vets too, to go after her, because if you're looking at who would flip, she's the candidate to flip, knowing that she's at the bottom. So Big T got away with a lot last season. She really got away with a lot. And I do think that this it might be her season to sort of pay for her sins of how well she did last season. She made some moves, and she might have to pay for them.
Also, do you think she was kind of saved last season because no one wanted to give CT a chance at his skull, so they weren't going to throw them both in? So she weirdly had a shield not to go in on a season you want to go in, and just let her survive longer than she thought.
Right, and yeah, I hadn't thought about it in that lens, but that is extremely accurate, right? With Big T, you look at what worked for her to do well last season, and it was almost like everything lined up, right? She had a partner who could help her win daily challenges and give her this political power and make those ties. She connected with the rookies, and we saw for the first time in a while the rookies actually had an alliance last season, and they actually at least tried to come at the vets in the beginning. They gave it a shot. So there was a lot of things that lined up for her to do well. And then in this season, she's sort of coming in with this target of like, hey, we didn't think you were a threat and you made moves last season. You're not going to just get away with it again. That's the vibe I'm getting, is that all the vets are sort of like, you played us last season thinking that we thought, you were like fun, dumb, Big T, and it's like, no, you're smart and you made moves. That's not happening again, right? That's the vibe I got.
Yeah, and it's caused a lot of the vets to go cold on her, as cold as Iceland. But it's hot there in Croatia because half the house is sunbathing, and Hughie is wearing a face mask. I love Hughie, what a legend. And whilst some of them are sunbathing, some of them are working out, and you can't work out without joining Nelly T's Bootcamp, which needs to have its own MTV show.
Yes.
I'm pretty certain that's the first thought I had when I saw this scene, and I checked our challenge Reddit Instagram and realized that you posted it the second this clip came on. I would watch Nelly T's Bootcamp. It just seemed fun. Also, how much money would they have paid for Anaconda? They clearly have faith in Nelly T's Bootcamp.
And do you know who Nelly T has faith in? Old Bertha.
Bertha.
He loves a bit of Bertha. I'm sorry, Berna, we're calling you Bertha from now on. But she's kind of struggling because she thinks the vets see her as a threat. Now, I'm going to go to you here, Jake, because from the edgic perspective, when she said that, did you think, okay, this is going to be an episode where she's going to go into elimination?
Yes, I started to think that. Some seeds were being planted, right? Seeds were being planted where the vets think I'm a threat. We were starting to sort of get the rundown that, hey, she was getting content outside of the relationship with Nelson, right? It wasn't only confessionals regarding Nelson or Ashley. It was starting to be more about her and her game. And I liked in the previous episode, she displayed like an awareness that was like, I know that if I have this thing with Nelson, people are coming after me, and that's not good. So she displayed a little bit of, they were planting that seeds early on, and I didn't actually think that she was going into the elimination. I thought Michelle was going in, truthfully, and I'll explain why as we go on. But they were planting seeds, and now in hindsight, I can say that is why they were planting those seeds, right?
I like Berna/Bertha, but do you know who absolutely hates her, George?
Ashley Meltdown Mitchell.
Ashley Meltdown Mitchell hates Berna. Now, whilst
such a good nickname, I love that so much.
Whilst most of the challenges are part of Nelly T's Bootcamp, there is the kind of offshoot gym area where Garbo and Corey Lay are having a little chat. Corey Lay feels like he's in a position now in this rookie partnership situation where he's constantly going to get called in. Garbo doesn't really know what's going on. He's just working out in the gym because he's got a bit of tanning and laundry to do afterwards. But when we're looking at the situation, oh, come on, George, don't roll the eyes.
I rolled my eyes so hard there, I think I've sprained them.
But we are at a situation where the rookies outnumber the vets, and the rookies have outnumbered the vets all the way through, but still the vets are running the game. Why? I mean, I know that Alan talked about it, Tay talked about it. Why can't the rookies just get their act together? George?
Okay, one, why are you discussing strategy with Gabbo? There is a really long list, including my deceased great granny, who I would discuss strategy with before I spoke to Gabbo about it. Like, the guy has no idea. He actually, it's interesting because he almost seems to know he has no idea. Because when he says that I can't remember if it was in your summary actually, Jay, but where he goes, "I've got popcorn muscle," it's like, are you hilariously self-aware and go to the end? You can't be. But yeah, honestly, I don't get the conversation because Coriel seems really quite switched on. I think he's actually one of the stronger rookies, and his stock seems to rise for me every episode. We hear him speak, see him perform. It seems really, really decent. In terms of the rookie versus the vet, I think Tay actually summed it up best last week. It's because you're dealing with people like Dabo, you're dealing with people who don't really understand the game. If you had a team of Michelle, Michaela, and Kels, and Coriel and Tommy, actually, if you have those 5 just duplicated 3 times, they'd walk it. They'd understand the numbers. They put the right people against the right people, and it'd be a rookie game. Fortunately, rookie's dumb. That's better. That's quicker. Edit all the long explanation out and just end with rookie's dumb.
And then we've got Michelle and Emmanuel flirting over on the deck chairs. That happened. But after that, the alarm goes off and it's time for the agents to head down to the mission to join TJ. So while they're struggling with their footing on the way down there, let's find out from TJ exactly what's in store. So the agents have to jump off a 30-foot cliff into some water, dive down to get an active bomb, then swim to a cave to get the second active bomb, then swim to a wave runner, which will drag them to a checkpoint before they swim to shore and deactivate the bombs on a podium. It's quite convoluted for what was actually quite an enjoyable challenge.
I know who we're casting him in the Austin Powers rate. Here is the tractor beam.
It reminds me of that episode of Friends where Joey keeps using them but doesn't actually know how.
It's the best from Ross. You're using it wrong. I'm sorry.
This is gonna be great for the people that are listening to the audio.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
What are we thinking about this challenge, just from kind of initial explanation, George?
Look, I think I said quite a lot last season. I like the early ones that show a really diverse set of skills, and also we're definitely you and me, Levi. I don't know about you, Jay. We like the ones that show whether people can work well as a team together. And this was one that was definitely going to have that, not so much during the challenge, but definitely before, because I think we got some interesting moments about seeing people hype each other up. Definitely the first swimming challenge of the season, and there was one hell of a surprise within the first 4 teams. Like, someone's got absolute fins. They went absolutely rapidly through this. And I find it funny when people jump off things when they're scared of heights. See me, I'm a bit sadistic.
Well, I'm going to assume that I know who you're talking about. So why don't we talk about him? Hughie, the new crowd favourite, has an absolute meltdown at the top of that cliff. He throws up. I can't do it, Ashley. I can't do it. No, I'm not. I can't jump. And I'll say this now because he said I could. We have been in talks, and next week our guest joining us on the Reaction Podcast is Hughie, our favorite rookie from the challenge. So that'll be exciting. I'm sure that he'll critique the Irish accent I keep doing of him. But yeah, he was absolutely shitting himself. There was a really weird moment after he's thrown up where they then kiss on the lips.
Yeah,
woo, COVID.
I was surprised that wasn't talked about more. Like, how is that not brought up on a tweet or something? I've seen nothing of that yet.
So Alan Aguirre calls it out very, very well. I actually didn't notice it because it's standard practice in England when you're 14 to end up doing that. But yeah, also gross. But I'm just, this is the teaser we got in the first proper episode for this partnership. This was what I wanted from it for next week. Yep. They're going to be the greatest car crash of all time, and I want front row sit covered seats for it.
But do you know what I love is that he can't do it. Blech, kiss, jumps in, turns into a fish, dives straight down, grabs the active bomb, And then he just absolutely blitzes the swim. And I love that thing that he says. He's like, when you've got this much fear, you just turn into Superman. And do you know what? I kind of liked the fact that they didn't win out the people in their kind of group of 4 because of Ashley, because it actually made Hughie look even stronger. I don't know if you agree from your kind of logic there, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hughie has been an interesting character this season. He has an edit that he hasn't really told us how he's going to navigate the game or anything yet, the way like Emmanuel has, or have that sort of connection, but he's there and we keep hearing from him. And I like it's just these funny scenes and he's just a good energy. And I like that, like you said, he kind of pushed Ashley in this case, and Logan was going fast from how it seemed. Logan, and he just dominated that, right? So
yeah, Logan the prophet now.
Right. I like Hughie. I think he's gonna be a fun character this season. And him and Ashley are a literal train wreck, and I love it because you can see during that scene, Ashley's like, "Can I get a new partner?" She was just like, "He's like, screw you!" Just the back and forth banter already. I loved.
And that's what I like. She had that attitude at the beginning before they jumped in, but then afterwards, actually, he was the strong link of their team. I mean, George, how much do you love #Ashui?
I just think,
and that's what we're calling it, not Ashley, Ashui.
Okay, fine. Don't even know if I can say that. The thing I like as well is, Jake, I don't know how often you go through the Reddit, but how often do you see people calling out for bringing back normal people on the challenge? Normal, but with personalities.
Wait, you mean like not super jacked athletes? Not
yes. Oh, all the time. All the time.
And Hughie is an excellent example of that. I mean, his personality is dialed up to 11, but I find him hilarious. I want to just sit and listen to him rant about things for the entire day.
You will be able to do that next week, George, when Hughie joins us on the podcast. Not sure if I mentioned that already. I'll probably mention it a few times. Hughie is joining us on the podcast next week.
I think there's a concept in baseball called like something like a soft pitch. I really threw that one up for you just to like smash it out of the park. And 2 Brits talking about baseball is not what people tune in for. I'm surprised people tune in. But yeah, I generally, I want them to stay together for the entire game. No one separate them, please. I want this level of carnage. And
I want them to stay together forever.
I kind of want them to be my fun aunt and uncle. I think it would make Christmas. I think that would make Christmas very, very entertaining. And they'd be the family members who like bought you booze for the first time and taught you how to, that's the kind of people you need when you're growing up.
If you make that happen, please adopt me because I'd love to participate.
And you know what I love is that Hughie, despite what we expected based on how he was feeling before the jump, absolutely smashed the challenge. In the same way that Michelle smashed her face. Michelle's a boss though. She smashed her face. And then she was like keeping up with Ed, who, as we know, hyperactive dogs swim all the time. So he was always going to be good at this challenge. Yeah. Let's kind of talk about them in tandem here. Michelle and Ed, they're really impressing as far as the kind of physicality of the challenge, aren't they, George?
Yeah, I mean, it was one thing. So it was there's a reason I paused there, and it's because Alan Aguirre only did 2 full player previews, and he said he was worried about Michelle's physical game because on Survivor, apparently she failed a couple of challenges around that. She wasn't great at it. And from what we've seen so far this season, she was awesome in this one. I don't think she embarrassed herself in the second or first one. And maybe it isn't as big a gap in her game. And we know her mental and social game is fantastic. We know you love her, Levi. That's why I thought you were going to start hating Emmanuel by the end of this episode, to be fair. But yeah, Emmanuel, he wishes you well. But yeah, I just, Michelle was very, very intriguing from the start of this show, and I'm very, very excited to see what happens to her next. Yes. Jake, actually, that's the point. Do you think she's being teed up? But
she's getting a big edit, isn't she, Jake? She's getting a big edit.
She's getting a big edit, and also Levi, I need you to back off a little bit because she's Michelle's mine. Okay,
Let's be honest, she's neither of ours.
I know.
Ding, ding, ding.
She is one of those people that, so I'm very familiar with both of her Survivor seasons. She is excellent. She, to me, I knew she was going to do well in the challenge because she's not a great fit. Like, she's not somebody who's like a Jenny West in terms of strength, and physical. That's not what she's bringing to the challenge. But what she has this ability to pick up on things quickly, no matter what it is, whether it's social cues, whether it's what she's doing in a challenge, whether it's how to swim with these waves, right? And how to maneuver her body in the water. She just picks up on things quickly. She's a competitor similar to Ed. Winners win, and she knows how to win. She knows how to navigate her way to the end. And Michelle, in just so many different ways, I think is impressing me, that if she's not in the final this season or something along those lines, I do think they are setting her edit up to be a returnee, and that makes me extremely happy, right? I think it's one of the two. She's either going to go far in this game, or they're giving her enough focus that it's like, hey, we want you to remember her because we want her to come back. And I'm really hopeful that that's the way, because I have loved her and she's received a strong edit so far. Very strong.
And it's interesting you say that winners win, because if there's anyone that knows a lot about winning, it's the man that had his arse out for half of the challenge. CT, just have my arse out. But you'd think that in a game of 4 where one person's arse is out, he'd get all the attention. No, because at some point Tommy lost his shorts and everything was out. He emerges from the water just for dump, as one of our Redditors is named, just penis out, just swinging back and forth while he's trying to deactivate that bomb. I've got a few quotes from the cast on their first view of Little T. Tasha, how do I get blindfolded? I'm not supposed to see this. Corey, I've seen more of a redhead than I ever want to see in my life. Esther, I really love Esther, by the way. Maybe he just wanted to be free. Some people like to swim like that. And Hughie, shall I do it in the accent?
Yes.
Okay. Hughie, this is my favorite challenge ever. Not only is this a show, it's also dinner. I'm starting to really love the challenge. I'm so happy. I'm happy I came now. I'm wondering what he meant by I'm happy I came now. Anyway, joking aside.
I'm wondering that it's dinner. Like, who eats sausage with 2 pieces of cake?
Meat and 2 veg. Nice, healthy, balanced dinner.
That's better. Are you calling CT's arse a sweet potato?
Joking aside, though, Tommy collapses after the mission and medical has to help him while he throws up and lies unconscious on the rocks naked. He doesn't remember the ending of the competition, but thankfully he does have some kind of sense of there, because he does ask for some pants. And then when he comes back over the hill, he's a very lucky man because he can see 5 Devins. But he's got a lot of trouble balancing. We later find out this is a concussion. Where did he get the concussion? And how on earth did he finish that challenge with a concussion and no clothes on?
So I think I have an idea how he got it. Okay. There's a reason in contact sports you wear a gum shield, and it's not to protect your teeth. It's to stop your bottom jaw going into your top jaw. And that sends vibrations, it sends shockwaves through your head, and that gives you a concussion. I think he had his mouth open when he landed in the waves and when he clamped his jaw. And then how he finished, I reckon we all got the same answer, right? Full of adrenaline. You would be after a cliff jump, like, really impressive performance. We should give him some credit here. And Levi, you should give him some credit because you've been rude about Tommy in the last 2 episodes.
No, I didn't. Tommy. I've not been rude about him. I said that I don't like him, but I don't know why I don't like him.
We know why you don't like him. It's because he's close to Michelle and you're jealous. It sounds like Jake's now on your list as well.
But one question I do have, in all of this, how did he lose his underwear?
Right. I don't know. Go ahead. I don't know.
I don't know. Let's get some editing logic on this.
If it helps, it's happened to me.
Okay, go for it, George.
Go ahead. I have no idea.
It happens really easily. If you're wearing ill-fitting shorts or they're not quite right, and you hang on to the back of a jet ski. I haven't done it from a jet ski, but I fell off a banana boat grabbed my brother and was being dragged behind the banana boat for ages. Very, very fun activity. Very nice bonding session. Really helps my brother is fucking hench.
When you say banana boat, is that a euphemism?
Mine's not a banana. It's significantly
anyway.
Yeah, you brought it up. But yeah, it's the friction of the water as you're getting dragged through. Your shorts just come down. It happens. It happens to the best of us, like Tommy, and it happens to the worst of us, like me.
Do you know what else comes down and it comes crashing down? Is Tasha and Jeremiah's performance in this challenge. They basically got DQ'd for shitting the bed because Tasha tried to drown Jeremiah. Now, I think straight away we all thought this rookie team is going to put a huge target on their back. Side note, just before we talk about Jeremiah and Tasha's performance, Bettina did really well.
Yeah. I was surprised by that. She actually kept up with Corey, and then you could tell in the last second when she put it the wrong way, he snapped a little bit, but she kept up. I mean, she's been quiet outside that laugh, but she hasn't shown us anything negative about her game or any. The only thing we have is her laugh and that she's actually done decently in the challenges.
Well, seals are used to water, aren't they? So yeah, Tasha and Jeremiah, did you think that was awful, that performance?
Yeah, it was not pretty. And instantly, even this was the first time we hear from Casey in a while. And Casey gives us this confessional that's essentially like explaining exactly
you messaged me about
happening.
This.
Yeah, it's the Casey becomes out of this is literally the first time we hear from her since the previous episode. Actually, since the confessional where she's blushing about Nani. That's the only time we've heard from her. And she actually explained it pretty well. She said that if you're a rookie team who already has a target on their back and you perform poorly in the challenge, that naturally is going to put a target on your back even more. So as soon as she said that and we had some sort of confirmation, in my mind, I was like, they're either going to be the house vote or called out by the winners. And that was quickly setting them up to be in that position. And so then for me, it became a game of, okay, whose edits do they beat and whose edits do they lose to? What's the situation there? So yeah, as soon as they said that, is again, they're just planting seeds.
And when you're thinking about edits, let's now edit the whole thing into a montage for the middle of the road teams. One thing I got to say was Esther's little scream at the beginning of this montage was really cute. Again, absolutely love Esther. Now, they basically did the rest of them in this montage, except for the final team that had to go on their own because there's an odd number of teams. Kyle and Amanda. Here comes the K-Dog, because we didn't talk about him last week. And this is the other team that we absolutely love because we are horrendously biased on this podcast. I just love that Kyle is so scared and basically just doesn't jump and just looks at TJ and is like, I don't want to do it. And then I love the way that Amanda's like, I'm a mum at home. I didn't want to be a mum here, especially with a child that I don't want and want to hit.
It's not quite line of the episode because there's a brilliant one from Devin later on which had me in stitches because it was so out of the blue. This was top 3 of line of the episode. This had me actually cracking up. But
this is another pair that we want to stay together forever.
Yes, whole season, please.
I want them to be the other side of my aunt and uncle. I want Hughie and Ashley, and I want Carl and Amanda. I need a really sensible parent or I'm really in trouble.
Those would be some fun family barbecues.
Yeah, they would.
Do you know what I love though? It's like
Tommy can bring the sausages.
I'm not going to comment that. Do you know what I love as well though? It's like they quite obviously had a really bad performance, and then they get the active bombs on the deactivation podium, and they're just absolutely pissing themselves with laughter. Like, I just imagine that they're both having so much fun. And then Carl just looks at Amanda and goes, another shining moment in Carl's challenge career. We need teams like that.
So,
we do.
Jake, does edgic go as deep as looking at like number of confessionals versus tone of those confessionals? So Kyle taking the piss out himself constantly, does that lead to a conclusion or is it just based on screen time?
It does lead to confusion. So it's not only confessionals. And Tommy was a good example of this from episode 1. He only had one confessional, and I had him as complex because of the survivor scenes. He explained how he was going to do that. So with only one confessional, he was still complex, as opposed to Priscilla, who had 6, but she didn't really say anything of value other than what was narrating. So Kyle had some. Kyle was fun this episode, and with Kyle, with his confessionals, I think you have to take everything with a grain of salt, just because of how funny and how over the top he goes. That it's almost like you don't want to read too much into them, because he kind of sets himself up for failure a lot, right? He describes, he does that, exactly like you said. He's like, another shining moment in Kyle's challenge history, right? So he sets himself up quite a bit.
Kyle seems like one of those human beings that you just can't embarrass. When you're having lad banter and you're trying to embarrass him in front of his girlfriend or whatever, or his parents, it's impossible, because he'll tell the story before you do.
Do you remember what Devin says in one of the preseason interviews? It's like, don't come at me and Kyle, because we will just make fun of you till you go viral in all the wrong ways. It's a really good summary of how they play the game. It's quite... if I was in a house with Kyle and I had an embarrassing moment, I would tell everyone before Kyle found it out and told everyone about me, because it's just the safest option.
And the thing about this challenge is you have to win it to guarantee your safety.
Right. There
you go, George. Thank you for teeing me up there. And
that's a new thing we're doing every week. I really like that.
And shall I have a bat so I can just bring it out? Cricket bat, because we're British. So now that Carl and Amanda have spectacularly made a pig's ear of this challenge, to all of our entertainment and the entertainment of their own, that means that all of the teams have gone. So TJ tells us the 2 fastest teams were separated by less than 1 second. I'm guessing Carl and Amanda aren't one of them. But only one team can be George's favorite thing, the agency. Power couple.
You little shitbag.
So,
well done. Tell Kyle so he can embarrass me.
So let's head down to TJ and find out which pair won. So Ed and Tori win, and Tori gives Ed a lot of credit. This is a very Ed highly edited episode, isn't it? From even before this challenge. So in your head, based on your logic, who did you think was going to win this challenge? George, why are you laughing?
I'm really disappointed you didn't go, this is a highly edited podcast.
Oh, I'm so annoyed at myself. But yeah, based on your logic, who did you think would win this mission?
This one, I was leaning towards either Tori or Ed and Corey L and Michelle. Well, I knew Corey L and Michelle wouldn't, but those were the teams that went the fastest. So I was leaning towards Tori and Ed, just because they had finished first in their heat and they had received the most focus. But I thought it wasn't Casey and Emmanuel, but who else was in their heat? There was somebody else in their heat, but truthfully, I didn't have a great grasp of who was going to win the challenge. This episode shocked me in a lot of different ways, and I'm sure that in this next section we'll talk about it a lot. But this episode threw me for a loop a little bit.
And as you said, Corey Lay and Michelle was second. George, how much would that have changed the game if they'd won it?
I was really hoping they would have won, just because the fact we've talked about this before, the fact that vets got some time to war game the rest of the series and talk about it on their phone and come with their plan of action. Mm-hmm. I really, really want a rookie team to win early, just to slightly unbalance the power dynamic, because otherwise you can, Jake, probably but you can probably almost see where this season is going if something doesn't happen with either a betrayal or a rookie team winning to shake up that. I want that little bit of chaos that Hughie and Ashley give me all the time, but I want the chaos in the game as well.
Yeah, and it feels like at this point the show is setting up to be, for the next 2 or 3 episodes, to be 2 more rookies eliminated, then 2 more rookies eliminated, then 2 more rookies eliminated, and that's got to stop at some point, right? And so yeah. I'm with you. I want a rookie team to win, or I almost wish that Tori took a shot, because I want something to break this up a little bit, either to save the rookie purge that's happening. I'm with you.
And we'll talk about what Tori did a little bit later in the episode. But one thing I just want to point out is that Devin turns to a new best friend, Josh, and our best friend, George, Amber, and basically says, "You were third, no doubt." And if Devin says it, It must be true. So with that, they head back to the headquarters to scramble before deliberation happens. And one thing that we're noticing, Big T, she's mentioned it before in the episode, she is worried after what she did to Tori last season, putting her up against Anissa, that Tori's going to be out for revenge. And this kind of makes sense because Tori, Anissa, and Devin are having a chat. Well, Anissa doesn't say anything. She's just sitting there. And Tori basically says, look, 14 vets, 14 rookies. The rookies are doing what we want. I don't really trust Big T, so I want to take a shot. Devin, thank God, is there because he says, no,
early. Yeah.
You need to stick to the plan, get rid of the rookies first before the inevitable vets versus vets game. Thank God for Devin.
Yeah, also, I love the way he phrased it, though, until the real war begins. And that got me giddy for the back half of the season because it's going to be like when Game of Thrones was good and you have the shit houses get taken out early and then finally you get the big players you want to see go for it. Levi probably doesn't watch Game of Thrones. No, seriously, do you watch anything other than the challenge? I respect you for it, by the way.
Sport.
Oh yeah, fair enough, actually. But yeah, it was. I'm glad Devin stepped in here because I want Big T to stick around a bit longer because we saw what she can do when she gets a bit of time, and I want to give her another opportunity to do that because when she shakes up the game, it's very, very entertaining. Those were two of the best episodes of Double Agents when she was in power.
And as stats and number guys, I think you two will love this because Devin crunches the numbers. We all know Devin loves crunching the numbers, and he thinks that, and this is how he pronounces it. So we've been pronouncing it wrong for 3 weeks. Emmanuel. Yeah. Devin thinks that Emmanuel is a threat, and he's also worried about Bertha because he thinks she's weird and he doesn't like her. But in theory, he thinks Emmanuel is the best rookie there. Do we agree? I don't feel it's been edited like that. Jake, you're definitely the person to go to for this.
Yeah, Emmanuel is number one on my contender list right now, and it's very early in the season, right? So like everything should be taken with a grain of salt. But I think that his edit has been portrayed very well, mainly because of Devin. Actually, Devin is giving us a lot of that second person visibility. This is the second episode in a row where we've heard about how strong of a competitor he is. And then we also hear the thing where Devin says, I feel like he knows the game much better than he's leading on, right? In that same confessional, I believe. And Devin has shown to be a reliable narrator. What he says so far in the season has been accurate. So if Devin is saying to watch out for this guy, Emmanuel, I'm thinking I got to watch out for this guy, Emmanuel, right? I think that, and then you also, I'll stop ranting in a second, but the very first episode, he's one of the only players who gets to comment and explain why they chose the partner they chose. And he shows really good game awareness in every scene that we're seeing from Emmanuel. He's aware of what's going on in the game. And that's not what we see from the other rookies like Gabo or Jeremiah. Even Coriel has shown to be a little whiny in some things. Emmanuel has shown that he knows why he's there and he knows the strategy that he needs to apply. At least that's what I'm interpreting so far. I really like his edit.
I said last week, there's a clip in the trailer, but they won't tell you who it is. He's been in the top 3 every week and he gets the game. Yes. He's dangerous.
That's the clip that we saw in this episode.
That's the one I shouted out. That's definitely Emmanuel. So finally, something I've said this season has aged well because I predicted Kels to win. That didn't work, but I think he's not quite like Ed because we haven't seen enough yet. But I haven't seen anything Emmanuel would be bad at yet. Yep. So I think he is dangerous.
And that's the thing, as you say, he's all rounded, and as Jake, you said, Emmanuel, as I'm going to call him from now on, he's very aware. And do you know who's not aware? Because he's got a massive fucking concussion. Tommy. He returns to the house with his glasses on, because unfortunately it is time to pack the bags because he has received the medical DQ. Very sad moment for all, especially Michelle and Big T. They're very sad. I really like, you know how I said I didn't like Tommy and I don't know why? I like him now because he had that lovely pep talk with Big T when she goes, what am I going to do without you? And he goes, you're going to get on that treadmill because you're going to think that I'm telling you to get on that treadmill. I think I think it's really sad seeing anyone go home for medical reasons. Obviously, we've already had Nam go home for reasons we won't discuss on the podcast, to do with medical reasons. And now we've had Tommy. Obviously, someone else went home last week, but I don't even know who she is. It's a shame because I think the Survivor crew, the Tommy, Michelle, Michaela, they had high hopes for.
Yes.
I mean, what do you obviously have done the edgic for Survivor. Is Tommy a recent winner?
Tommy is. So Tommy was not the most recent season, but the second most recent season he won. He's one of the few seasons I haven't seen, so I wasn't super familiar with him. Tommy was actually one of the areas where I was super wrong on this season so far. I really liked his episode 1 edit, and I actually got some criticism that he only had one confessional and all this. And I thought they were setting him up to be smart and aware and giving him random confessionals. And I was wrong. So I'm hoping that means they were setting him up to come back maybe, but I don't know if that's the case. But yeah, Tommy was an interesting one. And I like you said, with the interview, with the conversation with Big T, it showed a side of him that I was like, man, I like this guy.
I always put a lot of weight as well on like the kind of digital stuff that the challenge do, like, you know, who they put as their profile photos, but also who they get on the challenge aftermath with the wonderful Devin Simone. And he was on it this week, which does make me think that he is someone that they're going to bring back. And yeah, unfortunately, he's got... Go on, George.
Sorry, he's also apparently a massive challenge fan. Like, apparently he's watched every season before they called him. And I just like it when rookies go in with game tape on the others. And no, like, one, I don't get why most don't do it, but I just like it when rookies seem smart. I think it gives you more of that chance to, like, so Frank was obviously had some problematic personality traits, but he was smart and he did a very... Okay, Frank had 95% problematic personality traits, but he shook up the game and made the season quite interesting. And the moments that were interesting about the seasons revolved around him. And I think Tommy was like a non-problematic Frank. And it would have been really interesting to see what he would have done with a bit more time.
And unfortunately, he has now gone home, which is a real shame because I've said throughout this season how much I really like him. You, George, however, have said horrible things, like you said about Nanny.
Piss off! You've done this for Nanny. You're not doing it about me, about Tommy as well. Tommy's season chat with Wes as well was one of the best bits of the build-up of all time. Like, I thought that was absolutely hilarious, and I want them on a season together. That's a new rivals, ginger rivals. That'll be fucking brilliant.
And there is a rivalry that's a brewing, which started last season, which is the Tory and Big T rivalry, and Big T is worried going into nominations, and as they head into the nomination room and the TJ video plays, which is the exact same TJ video as the last 2 weeks, yet the challengers still seem quite transfixed on it, almost as if they've never seen it before. Tori decides to congratulate everyone on a hard challenge, which is followed up by Ashley saying that they're not here to compliment each other. Let's just get on with it and throw someone in, leading to Hughie with what I feel is the line of the episode. Do you want me to do it in the accent?
Yes.
Obviously.
Jesus Christ, Cruella.
That was line of the episode. That had me absolutely busting a gut laughing.
He actually had another one like of the same vein a bit earlier on when they all came back from the layer, where Devin's like, #1 draft picks back, and you just hear Hughie go, "Shut up, Devin." I like that he's having those little like 3-word banter things with everyone. I like it. That's when you can tell that he feels comfortable. And obviously, you know, veteran of 27 seasons, Josh says that if you think you're in trouble, it's time to speak up. And straight away, putting themselves in the firing line is Tasha and Jeremiah, saying that they know they're in danger and they're ready to go if they're voted in. Should they have kept quiet and let it be a bit of a kind of, do we go for that rookie team or the Corey and Michelle rookie team, or do you think they did the right thing just speaking out? George?
So what's always been your take on how to handle a deliberation, Levi?
Act like you're not there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the power couple timed it did it quite well to make someone speak up, but they almost forced Tasha and Jeremiah to speak up here, didn't they? Like,
was it them or was it veteran of 78 seasons, Josh?
Sorry, actually, it was. Josh is actually playing quite a good game. It's very baffling, but very interesting.
It's annoying. I don't like it. I want it to stop.
But do you know why it is? Let's remember who his new best friend is.
The number one draft pick.
Number one draft pick, Devin Walker.
I reckon Josh is Devin's
They're playing a bit of chess, and now Josh is clever.
Well, to be fair, though, we saw this with. It's a good point. We saw this with Fessy last week. He used Josh as his mouthpiece. Is Devin also doing that in a sneaky way?
100%.
Yeah.
Because the number one draft pick, Devin Walker, is a fucking genius. I was going to say that. Is literally Josh thinks, and remember, I'm being positive about Josh.
Sorry, Josh thinks. I call bullshit on that one.
No, hold on. Let me finish the sentence. I just wanted to preface the whole I'm being positive on Josh. So Josh thinks that he's like leading the charge at the moment. But actually what's happening is he is a human shield for the Fessies and the Devons of the world who are having these ideas, but they know that if they tell Josh, Josh wants it to be his idea. So Josh is literally just throwing himself out there, putting himself in the firing line, and then coming off doing the Conor McGregor Billy Strutt, thinking, "Yep, I did that." Whereas Devin's sitting there in the corner, stroking the cat, because he's the real evil genius here, and that's a clip. Yeah, let's get back to that. The human shield.
I think that Devin is he's playing a smart game right now, and he's being edited in a way like we've never seen him before. Even in Double Agents, when he was giving us the strategic type of commentary, which he was doing it from a position of, I know I'm fucked, so I'm going out balls to the wall, right? And that's what we were hearing from him. We were here, and I think that was partially because of the position he was in, but partially because that's what was going to happen to him last season, is he was going to lose to Darrell ultimately, and that's how he would go home. This season, I'm struggling to see why Devin shouldn't be my leading contender, right? And it's the same reason for the Big T. I need to see something for the endurance, but from a game perspective, we are seeing everything through Devin's eyes, right? And
Jake, can I just ask, when you say leading contender, do you actually mean number one draft pick?
Dude, it sounds crazy, right? But like the edit is portraying him. And I mentioned this in my last live. I can't say that I think he's going to win yet. We just haven't seen it endurance wise or anything, but I think he'll be at this point. It's too early to make any predictions, but if anyone is being set up for the final, I think that Tori is. And I think that Devin almost is too, because we're seeing it through his eyes. And I think that figuring out who wins, if it is not him, will be important to see what he's talking about, because so far in episode 1, 2, and 3, we hear about the Vet Alliance and how they're going to operate through Devin. In episode 2, we hear him explain why Kells is a threat, not Josh or Fessy who's executing the move. It's Devin explaining that Kells' brain and leadership is why he's a threat. And then in this episode, we hear him calm down Tori. We hear him explain his reasoning as to why he would put certain people in. Like, Devin is getting scary good content that makes me believe that he is going to we're going to navigate this game through Devin's eyes, which is like a weird thing to say, but it's really, that's how it's being shown right now.
And what Devin also has is Devin now has his own little segment in the nominations, which I like to call the Devin Walker, if not you, then who segment. Devin, put that on a t-shirt. Yes. And he says it to Tasha and Jeremiah, if not you, then who? Now, last week, Kells froze when Devin said that. This week, fair play to Tasha, because she straight away said Michelle and Corey Lay, which I thought, everyone would be like Corey and Michelle would be like, yeah, fair play. Because Michelle was like that. She was like, fair play. We're the only other rookie team. Corey Lay takes this really, really personally.
Mm-hmm. He did that the first time he got thrown in as well, though, didn't he? Because they chucked him down. He said, so I'm here for no reason. I wasn't even a part of that argument, right? It's pretty on character. I do sympathise with him though. Like, you must be frustrated to have been thrown in once and then constantly. I think he was talked about last week, and then get thrown in and then get talked about again.
Yeah, but Jay was like that on Total Madness, and he was just like, "Fine, throw me in. I'm going to beat you. Then I'm going to beat you. Then I'm going to beat you." That's the attitude you need to have.
Then he calls out Rogan as well, actually, in his last one, which I did really enjoy.
Right.
Not a great idea when you're giving up about 120 pounds to someone, but still brave. But I respect the move from Tasha. Like, if your literal only aim is to save yourself, you go for the next lowest hanging fruit, right? That's only your option. The reason I was annoyed Kells didn't call out someone bigger is he could have called someone out bigger.
The thing is, I think the only person he could have called out would have been Jeremiah.
Josh. Oh, Kells or
Kells. Because for the if not you, then who segment last week, if Kells was going for another rookie team, it would have been Jeremiah and Tasha. And as much as I'd have loved to see Kells versus Jeremiah in a headbanger, I don't know if that's your best thing to do, is to go, okay, I'm going to go against the other rookie who is the same size as me.
I think that this debate that we're having kind of shows that, like, the "if not you, then who" is not only a genius line, but it's also one of the best game moves that you can make, in my opinion, because as somebody who's asked that question, it's like, pick your poison. Am I going to say another name and then by definition put a target on my back? And I think that's why Kells didn't say another name, is because he didn't want anybody to have a reason to come back on him and all this. Like, there's that thought is in your head. But if you don't say someone else's name, you're putting in a position where you're the only candidate. And so it's like the ultimate game move by Devin, because it's a sneaky way of saying, hey, show your cards or you're going in. But if you show your cards, we're going to find another reason to throw you in anyways. And it's like, it's a sneaky, tricky game move, because it's a question that during deliberation, it's going to come up. If not you, then who's the other option? But if you answer it, like, you could be doing more damage to your game than you originally intended.
You're right. It's literally Devin chucking grenades left, right, and center,
right,
isn't it?
Right.
It's almost you phrased it better than I will, but it's like a no-win scenario.
Right.
He's weakening everyone else's position in the game.
Exactly.
And he's
Except
the one
for his own.
where there's a weird concept where, like, if you're the one answering the question and someone answers you, you're in the position of power. And it doesn't work 1 week, it won't work 2. If he keeps doing it, and he will keep doing it, because he'll find a way that it just goes, oh, it's Devin's line. Someone will team up for that eventually. Puts him in a very, very strong position. Was like, don't even consider me. I get to see who you want to go up against.
Right.
But do you know what it also seems to do? And I don't quite understand how, but it seems to garner him more and more respect from the room.
Right.
Because it's like the people that are meant to be chairing this whole thing are the agency, power couple.
Right.
But really what's happening is Devin is chairing this whole thing. He lets Josh think that he's chairing it at the beginning, but if Devin's not hearing all the things that he wants to hear to throw in the people that need to be into a worrying position, he then steers it with the "if not you, then who," and then also with the, well, you know, we'd be hard pressed not to realize that Tommy's not standing behind Big T right now, so let's not rule out it's going to be a girls only elimination. And then there's an interesting moment where Josh says to Big T, "I think you should probably speak now," and she says, "No, because if I speak, I'm going to blow up." You know, he is the chairman. Is number 1 draft pick Devin Walker. He's getting so many nicknames this season. I've just come up with so many more t-shirt lines for the "We Are Devin" t-shirts.
Honestly, I would actually buy "if not you, then who."
Same, me too.
Just
I would pay shipping.
Yeah. It's getting made in your country, like, it's where Devin's. But I just want Devin's. What's the line Gabby says about him last year? I want Devin's punchable face here, and if not who, then who here. Actually, that'd make a good tattoo.
And then just Corey lays sad face at the back. Now,
poor Corey.
Now Big T, who's trying to just remain calm during this whole situation, then gets poked by the bear that is Tory Deal, basically saying, look, if you're having conversations in the house, people hear it, it gets back to people. And Big T's just like, look, I'm fed up of this. Why do people just think I'm plotting because I'm friends with people? And then I really love the way that she was like, Amanda and Ashley, your best friends. Anissa and Tori, your best friends. Blah, 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 blah. Was it Casey and Nanny, your best friends? And then
you're close was the way that she described that. I felt quite funny.
Well worded, Big T.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really good thing today to say until Tori comes out with half joking but half a bit serious of, and you know what you do to best friends? You throw them into elimination against each other.
I thought that was hilarious. Like, good commentary from Tori, and then you cut to Casey saying Tori doesn't think before she speaks, and you're like, yeah, but that's why she'll always be more entertaining than you on this show. Like,
this is where
like, good. I want more of that crap.
This is where I want to come to Jake, because this is the second time Casey's had a what the audience are thinking confessional. So the first one is obviously the Tasha and Jeremiah shitting the bed on the challenge, and the second one is Casey saying, you know, Tori's getting a bit big for her boots, which is, you know, I've kind of been saying this the last couple of seasons, haven't I, George? That, you know, Tori came in originally, she was like a female Ed when she first came in.
Right. Yeah.
And then she had a really good first season, and, you know, she got the podcast with Anissa and things like that. And it's almost like she thinks she's this kind of queen of the challenge. I don't know. What do you think about the kind of Casey confessionals there and this Tori situation?
Tori is an interesting one to me, and I wrote this in my Reddit. I'm with you guys. Personally, I'm not her biggest fan. I don't dislike her or anything, but I wrote this in my Reddit. On a scale of Josh to Amanda, she's much closer to Josh than she is to Amanda. I'm a huge Amanda fan, and with Tori, I think that the edit that she's received over the past few seasons is far different than the one she's receiving this season. But even this season, like that Casey confessional is, in my mind, was accurate. I loved the line, Tori, but it's like, just save that for when you and Big T are talking alone, right? Like, you don't need to say that in front of the house and like in a passive aggressive, half joking, but like, you know, I'm serious way. I thought it was interesting. And for Casey, I actually think that this episode kind of brought some breathed life into her edit, because she reminds us that while boring, she's very game aware, and that Casey, despite being probably one of the least entertaining people in challenge history, knows how to make it to the final in this game. And she just reminded us of that, right? In both confessionals in this episode, she reminded us that, hey, we might not be seeing her a lot, but she knows exactly what is going on.
And, you know, the way to get to the final is not to be eliminated. And the way not to be eliminated is not to be voted into elimination. George, it's time for your new favorite part of the show based on last week, and my least favorite because it's a balls to edit on the video pod. Thanks to the challenge aftermath with the wonderful Devin Simone, it is time to see the votes. So Tasha and Jeremiah are the compromised agents, but let's see who everybody voted for.
This was cool last week. Also, I've not seen this yet.
Is it also cool this week, though, George?
Oh, mate, this will always be cool.
Not for the audio listeners, it's not. So why don't I go through everything for the audio listeners? So Tasha and Jeremiah,
such a lovely host.
Tasha and Jeremiah, I'm not going to go through who everyone voted for until the end because they obviously got the most. So voting for Big T and Tommy, aka just Big T, was Berna and Big T. Now, Big T said on the challenge aftermath, the reason that she burned a vote on herself was because she wasn't going to vote for Tasha. Then voting for Michelle and Corey Lay are Esther and Tasha. Well, Tasha was always going to do it. She said that she was going to, and Esther and Tasha are close from Big Brother Nigeria. Voting for Esther and Fessy was Fessy. I think he knew they weren't in danger, so makes sense to burn himself. Voting for Ashley and Hughie are Hughie and Logan. I really hope that like Hughie did it by accident, and after he'd done it, he's like, "What's going on with this tablet? Why have I voted for myself? I didn't mean to do that. Ashley, I promise. Shut up, Hughie."
I really want that as my ringtone, by the way. Shut up, Hughie.
Well, you want that more than power couple. And then
significantly.
Voting for Anissa and Logan was Jeremiah. That's probably a burn vote. And Priscilla voted for Amanda and Josh. When they showed this on the challenge aftermath with the wonderful Devin Simone, Nelly T was like, "She lied to me again." because obviously they're meant to be partners. So let me quickly run down the Tasha and Jeremiah thing. So they were voted by Amanda, Amber, Anissa, Ashley, Bettina, CT, Corey L, Corey, Devin, Emmanuel, Emmy, whose real name is Andrea, Garbo, Josh, Casey, Kyle, Michelle, Nanny, and Nelson. You're still on screen, George. Do we have any shocks there? None
I don't have shocks. I have a question though. You know, last week, Emmanuel voted. Sorry, how do you say his name, Levi?
Emmanuel, according to Devin, and Devin is right.
I will never be able to do that. But do we now think he knew what he was doing? Do you think he understood the concept of a burn vote? So he chucked on himself. So that thing that looked stupid last week kind of plays into Jake's point about him knowing how the game's working.
Potentially, because other people have done it this week.
Yeah, that's the one I'm trying to work out. Like,
do you think they're all worried that either one, at some point, it's going to be like last year where the votes get revealed, or two, they know that the people standing in the back row can see who the people in the front row are voting for, and therefore don't want to get themselves in trouble?
I think it's the first option. I think by week 5 or 6, they'll probably realise there's going to be no repercussions, and that'll make voting very interesting. But it was 3 weeks in last season until they found out you could see who voted. We're only 3 weeks in this season. So I think they're probably still a bit nervous about what they vote coming to the public eye, potentially.
I think that also, and I'm making this assumption as a fan, it's been a while since we've had a season that was more than one person eliminated at a time. And even Final Reckoning had the Redemption House, right? And so I know, which was miserable. I know. No, I'm with you. But
I'm sorry, Natalie and Paulie got eliminated about 8 times that season, and still got to the final.
If they had won, I would have revolted. But nonetheless, it's been a while. So especially with War of the Worlds 1, which is the most comparable season to this, I wouldn't be surprised because I'm honestly expecting some sort of major twist to happen, because we know it's a 19 episode season, and can they send home 2 players per episode and still stretch 19 episodes out of it?
I did this math earlier. You can't.
Okay, right.
You get to 14.
Right. And
let's remember though, we'll potentially have 2 situations, I reckon, where we're going to have 2 episodes in a row where there's a drama thing that happens, and therefore we won't get an elimination until the 2nd episode. I think we'll get that twice.
Even if you get that twice though, you're still short a couple of eliminations, right? And so I don't know, I'm anticipating, I'm thinking maybe does the steal your partner single eliminations from double agents come back, or is it a full War of the World situation where it goes to single player game? I don't know, but I'm wondering if the players are anticipating something like that too, because sending home 2 pairs at a time is faster than they've been eliminating players in the past few seasons. And I don't know if that lasts.
And I think that's the thing, is you've always got to be on your toes, and you've always got to be thinking on the challenge, and you have always got to be anticipating. And one person that is very much anticipating getting thrown into elimination is Big T. So she approaches Tori after the nominations, and she says, look, can we have a talk outside? Kyle is waiting. I love that Kyle is waiting. I can imagine I imagine Kyle was sitting there on the chair, and Big T and Tori came out for the conversation, and Big T said, Kyle, thanks for being here for this conversation. And Kyle went, what conversation? I'm just chilling. So basically, Tori and Big T have this conversation where Carl's playing the mediator that doesn't want to be there for the beginning. And Big T says, look, I understand why you might want to put me into elimination. Tori says she's weighed it up and it's best for her because there's a chance she'll say Big T's name because there's no reason to say anyone else's name, and she doesn't want to get blood in her hands and all of that. And then Carl says something interesting. He says, look, Tori, if you say Big T's name, and he uses some very interesting language, which maybe I'm overthinking. He says, is the truce over? Now, we've heard about Vet Alliance, but Carl says truce twice in this bit. There's a big difference between an alliance and a truce. An alliance is a group of people working together. A truce is a group of people that have set their issues aside for the greater good This isn't an alliance. This is a convenient truce where someone is going to fire the first shot at some point and shit is going to hit the fan. Kyle is a fucking genius because he has given us that, hasn't he, Jake? Edgic it for me.
Yeah, and those are the type of confessionals where like they don't give you those unless they're setting up a storyline, right? And like it makes sense. The vets can't keep this up. Kyle, give it to me. I'm excited for the blow up. I'm ready.
Because he knows that if Big T gets thrown in, it's going to open up Pandora's box.
Mm-hmm.
And what's in Pandora's box? Shit, and it's going to jump out and hit the fan. Now, whilst Tori is continuing to just overplay this game and letting the power go to her head, she goes to speak to Tasha and Jeremiah. She says she wants them to come back. Who do you want to go against? This is a very important part based on the editing for what we see later. Because Tasha says Michelle. She's already said Michelle's name in the deliberation, so she may as well tell Tori she wants Michelle, because then she gets less blood in her hands because she's already thrown Michelle's name out in public. Tori says, look, I'll do my best to make that happen. Well, you can obviously do it because all the vets control their rookie partners. And she shakes Tasha's hand. But I do love the bit where Tasha goes, I've always thought Tori was fake, but maybe I'm wrong here. Which again, that editing setting up for something later, Jake.
Yeah.
And speaking of some editing, deciding to just set something up that hasn't really been alluded to that much in the episode, except during Nelly T's Bootcamp. Bertha, aka Berna, she's feeling very scared of the unknown about whether or not she's going in. But I just love this moment, like Nelson, it just says, look, I'll do all that I can to help you. And Corey just goes, yeah, Nelly will put himself into elimination for you. He does that. That's his thing.
That's great.
My kids are on MTV payroll, but he still did it.
What was the exact quote for Corey? He said Nelson says, he goes in there, no, it's my turn. Yeah. Honestly, Corey's evolution as a challenger is one of my favorite things from like Rivals 3 to now. He's gone from seeing if he can shake up the game to shagging everyone in existence, including the houseplants, and then learning how to do strategy.
The shagging was first.
Yes.
It was shagging, then it was getting rid of all the vets to strategy. Yeah.
Rivals 3 didn't do too much shagging.
But his first season was
Invasion.
Bloodlines. Before that, he was Bloodlines.
He was. Yeah, good point. I retract my shagging statement.
And then
Instant
it was
shagging.
Then Rivals 3. Then it was Invasion, where he was all over the shagging.
All over. That was peak shagging.
Yeah. Then it was Dirty 30, where he suddenly became like, okay, I want to make a name for myself. I want to take out this vet, this vet, this vet. Now he's like, yeah, I've got 2 kids. Tony's not here, so that's my gimmick. I've got this, that, the other, and I'm here to like play it calm, and I'm here to win. I love that arc. He's so mature now.
I can't wait for Kyle to steal that gimmick.
You know if Kyle's on next season after the baby's born, they'll make a really big thing of Kyle saying that at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially if they get Tony on as well, and they just have the 3 of them have this conversation, and Kyle's like, Tony, you passed it on to Corey, and now Corey, you pass it on to me. And he just brings out a picture and he goes, I'm doing this for my son.
Oh, no, I want them to argue about whose kid will win in the future. It's like, my kid will kick shit out of your kid.
I will tell you
572.
And Josh will be on that. He's a vet of 784 seasons. But do you know whose kid's going to win? CT's kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or to use his actual adorable name, Little Fatso, which is what I really like the fact CT calls his kid.
I was going to say, that's what CT calls him. George hasn't just insulted a child.
Yeah, that's what I do off pod.
That kid is going
children to be annoying.
He's going to be eating ram hearts when just as practice training at age 7. I can see it now.
Oh my God, I would so watch a Rocky IV-esque montage of CT training his son to go on the challenge. That would be absolutely glorious. Eat it, son. It will make you strong. Sorry, read it, son. No, Levi, do a Boston mumble for me.
but that's the thing. Little CJ Chris Jr. will absolutely smash the eliminations, and that's the elimination that Berna is worried about getting thrown into. And you know who couldn't care less if she gets thrown into it? Because she hates Berna. She hates Berna so much. I don't like her, and she's a good competitor. Ashley Meltdown Mitchell does not like her because she wants to kill 2 stones with 1 bird, or whatever it goes. It's 2 birds with 1 stone, Ashley.
Yeah, also the way she said it would be way more impressive and slightly more psychotic.
Also, why are you killing the stones? But I just love it. She just hates her so much she doesn't care what the phrase is.
She's actually
just wants it in the
Gabbo.
confessional. Huh?
She's actually talking about Gabbo. Gabbo is a fucking stone.
I swear the only times we've actually seen Gabbo on the show is just in the gym or talking about how he's always wanted to be on Jersey Shore.
Or telling Nani she's a hot partner. That was an instant thing. Why did you pick Nani? Oh, she's hot. Oh.
Jake, give me one word about how Gabbo is going to do based on his edit so far.
Just the one word here.
Non-existent.
Oh, well, there's a hyphen.
There's a hyphen. There's a hyphen.
Poor. He'll do poor.
Well, on top of Berna being worried about being thrown in, Michelle is worried that she and Corey Lay are going to get thrown in. And I think based on the editing, it really has been set up that it's going to be either Big T, Michelle, or Berna. But with that, there's only one way to find out, and that's to head down to the lair. So the agents head down there. So let's find out from TJ and the agency who they have chosen to face the compromised agents. So did Tori make the right decision not to choose Big T here, George?
I think yes, because I'm pretty certain whoever shatters that Vet Alliance first is going home next, or at least going into elimination next.
Yeah, they basically show that they can't be trusted.
Yeah. Their whole game gets blown up.
So we've got Berna and Corey Lay who have been picked to go in, but with Tiny Tommy being deactivated, that leaves 1 less man in the game. So Jeremiah and Corey Lay get a reprieve. And that's what Devin predicted, because if Devin says it, it's got to be right. So it's an all-girls elimination. It's Tacha versus Berna. So why don't we head down to the lair and find out from TJ exactly what elimination game they'll be playing. Okay, so slipping up. So they basically have to use different length metal poles to build rungs on a giant ladder and then ring a bell. First of all, if you watch the Challenge Aftermath with the wonderful Devin Simone, you will be fully aware that this elimination went on for over an hour. What did you think of this elimination, Jake?
I thought it was, these are the type of eliminations I love, because even from like an edit perspective, I was on my edge of my seat the whole time, because Berna does have this storyline with Nelson, which gave her a little bit more longevity, but it could have very easily been the episode where she gets sent home and Ashley sort of wins, right? Ashley won that. So for me, I had no idea who was going to win the elimination. And I love that about eliminations. And I love the ones that are endurance / you've got to figure this out. There's some sort of trick to it. Figure out the trick. And those are my favorite types of elimination. So I loved it. I thought this was suspenseful. I thought they did a good job on this one.
Do you know what the first thing that came to my mind with my genius logic challenge brain to do for this elimination would have been? Don't laugh, George, because I've got to sit in a cold bath for an hour and do a Rubik's Cube because of you. So you sit there and you smile. What I would have done is I would have taken all of the poles and I would have sorted them into length order, and then literally I would have just been able to build the ladder, because to sort them into that order probably would have taken 10 minutes?
Max. There was about 10, 15 poles, I think.
Yeah.
I think a couple of minutes.
Yeah, so that would take a couple of minutes. And then literally you're just taking the one from the bottom of that list, sticking it on the rung, climbing, sticking it on the rung, climbing, sticking it on the rung. And you're not having to worry about chopping and changing them around. So actually, whilst you jest beforehand, George, it's a very clever way of doing things.
Do you know what I would have done? wait till we get near the top and then use my longest pole to knock off their top one so they fall down. But it's their own.
Is this your massive pole, George? Your massive pole?
My slippery pole.
Well, Tommy would have been good in this elimination then, wouldn't he?
Tommy would have been good in this. This reminds me of last season. Last season, Josh, CT, Darrell, Devin, that elimination they did. And everybody was just throwing their puzzle pieces on the ground. And then they had that little segment. And it was like, CT pro tip. If you're going to throw them on the ground, put them in a pile. And it's like, those are the kinds of things that you can't, those are vet moves, right? That's a vet move where you know to exactly, right? Levi is a vet.
I've been on 4,321 challenges with Josh.
I'm so sorry.
I apologize. I hope you don't have to do that again.
I'm still using it as the human shield, though. Don't worry, it's still the human shield.
I can't remember the season, but it looked very similar to one that Dustin did at the start of, I think, Exodus 2, where they're chained together either side of a ladder and they've got to go up and then bring the one strapped to their legs together up at the same time.
I'm sure there's one that they did with bamboo. It's a better
version of that, though.
Which one is it? I know exactly.
I think Sarah and or Evelyn and or DM were in it. I just can't remember who the two were.
I think it's the Ruins. I honestly think it was the Ruins.
Yes, it is the Ruins.
Yeah.
Possibly could have been Casey as well.
Right. I do. I think I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. It was DM versus DM lost. DM lost that one to, I think it was a rookie, honestly. DM
first or second elimination in Ruins.
Yes.
I know the one you mean as well. That's a very good shout too. God, the knowledge on this podcast is unbelievable.
Elite.
Yeah, well, unlike the Bananas podcast.
There's a vet of 11,321 challenges. Of course I'm going to remember all of them. It's just a good thing that I've got Josh on speed dial just to remind me of some of them because he's been on them all as well. Also, fair play to Berna, who did the majority of this with a possibly a broken nose. When a metal pole fell on top of it. I'm saying this slowly, George, because I'm going to you. Were you impressed by the girls in this elimination?
So I'm more impressed by the fact I actually now know it was over an hour, because that movement is really, really hard to keep doing. Like, do you know what a Jacob's ladder is? Mm-hmm. It's Levi. No. So it's when you've got.
I shook my head forgetting this is an audio podcast as well.
Yeah. Trying to help listeners. So it's when you've got holes in the wall and basically two pegs, and you have to put the peg in the wall and then pull yourself up on it, peg in the wall and pull yourself up again.
Tony versus Ammo.
Yeah, but harder. Jacob's ladder is like literally one of the hardest endurance things I've ever tried to do. It's literally exhausting. This is very similar to that, but with not quite as strenuous physically, but much more annoying in terms of like strategy and balance as well. So one, I thought they both did a great job, and two, I was entertained throughout this elimination as well. So like one, great performance by both of them, and two, really good for the viewers actually. Probably more entertaining than the last two eliminations actually, in terms of us watching.
Well, I also think, like, as you said, Jake, you didn't know who was going to win because they were neck and neck for a lot of the time. And also it's one of those things where you could pull a poll off like they did many times as well. And that completely changes the game for you. And then, you know, going from that editing and logic point of view, the edgic, where you were on the edgic of your seat, I wish you'd have said that. What you also had was the emerging possible Tasha and Tori rivalry based on the editing that we'd seen earlier, where you thought, okay, maybe that could be a thing that happens if she was to win it and come back. But what we did get a lot of was, you know, help and cheering. I say help. Nelson's not really much help. But, you know, cheering from Nelly T for Berna. But do you know who was not cheering for Berna, George? Do you know who was cheering for Tasha? Because she absolutely hates Berna, George. She hates her so much. Who was it?
I'm trying to think of a like physical thing I can do to explain a meltdown, but I'm just going to say it because I really like it. Ashley Meltdown Mitchell.
Should we just rename her? Ashley fucking hates Berna Mitchell.
That's a good one.
we could go with Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, or Fukushima. It depends which one you want.
I'm sorry, you keep saying burn. Do you mean Bertha? I don't know who
I
you're
do
talking
mean
about.
Bertha.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Levi.
I was very confused.
You're meant to be a fucking professional. Can you get a name right at least?
Sorry. I need Amber there to be like, isn't her name Berna? Which was the line of last week. But no, I do want to call her Berna just out of respect for what she did in this episode. I know we joked about her being called Bertha because Ashley, who hates her, called her that. But yeah, so Ashley was very much cheering for Tacha. I thought CT was being a really good partner, despite the fact this isn't really a partner's game. Right. I think he sees something in her that he kind of saw when he won the final with Amber last year. What do you guys think?
I think he sees a good potential partner, and we don't know much about Berna other than hearing. I mean, it was just really this episode that it was brought up that she's a good competitor, right? We've heard in other episodes about her background in gymnastics and the circus and that's the type of skill set that would be good in the challenge, right? So I think that now that CT has worked with her for a few challenges, in his head, he's probably like, can he find his next big T is I think what he's looking for. Someone to keep him kind of under the radar. If he's partnered with Ashley or Amber or anybody who's a threat in the final, he's going to be targeted. So I think that might subtly be kind of factoring into is who can I fly under the radar with? And if Berna can get this Nelson thing under control, maybe they can kind of skate as a partner because she's a rookie.
I think the thing is as well, it's like the movements that she was able to make to get up that ladder. One thing that Nelson did say, he said, I love the way that Berna can maneuver her body, because just like we all remember that Lolo Jones is an athlete, we all remember that Berna was in the circus.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were going to say in bed with Nelson.
Well, we all remember that too. But yeah, so it's pretty close, but it gets to the point where I think Tacha pulls off a couple of the poles. Berna manages to just kind of calm herself and breathe a bit, as CT tells us in the commentary, and eventually reaches for that bell. Ding, ding, ding. Berna has won the elimination, and unfortunately, Tacha is going home. And they have this really, really lovely moment together after the elimination, which I always love to see after eliminations.
Just nicely, neither competitor came out badly in this elimination. I thought they both put in a great performance, and then they were nice after. Got some opinions what happened next.
They were nice to each other, George.
There we go. Cool. I now get to be an arsehole. Brilliant. Take me up.
Because as the agents cheer for Tacha, Tacha tells them that she loves them, except for you, Tori, you fake ass bitch.
So Tori looks completely taken aback when this happens. To both of you, is Tacha overreacting? Because earlier in the game, she goes, I understand it's a game. So, like, what has set her off to be this angry?
I think something that happened on the first challenge based on the challenge aftermath with the wonderful Devin Simone.
I saw this story as well. But sorry, Jake.
No, I didn't hear this story.
Before you're tainted by Levi.
Tainted by Tacha, because Tacha told us the story.
Yeah. Why do you think she was so angry first, and then we'll tell the story?
Got it. So I think that when you look at the scene that was shown to us, it does show Tori walking into Tacha's room and asking who she wants, and in subtitles, which means either one of two things when they show subtitles. It's CT and you can't understand him, or they really want you to remember it. And she specifically says Michelle and all this. And Tori and Ed's partnership. The handshake. Yes, they actually shake hands on it. They shake hands on it. And in Tori's partnership, I think Tori was going to try and defend herself and be like, oh, it was a partnership. It wasn't all on me. I said I would do my best. It's like, well, Ed would have done whatever you wanted. Ed had no say in that. And I felt like that was kind of known that this was Tori's move. And Ed, as the rookie, was just kind of going along with it. So I kind of think Tacha has a point here. Like, Tori, you didn't need to do that if you were going to throw in Berna. Like, why have that conversation?
I think it's that question of, and I'm going to get the bingo cards out because rogue English football reference is coming out here. It's that question of how much do handshake deals have their worth, Daniel Levy and Harry Kane?
That is very, very topical if you're English, and if you care about football.
But yeah, so to tell the story of what Tasha said on the challenge aftermath, on the pick your partner challenge, after who was it that Tasha had? Jeremiah. After Tasha had picked Jeremiah and had unlocked him, Tori said, "Come pick me as well because we're a 3," and gave Tasha the sledgehammer for her and Jeremiah to try and smash the sledgehammer. And who was it? I think it was Nelson said, "Yeah, we found that really weird because no one told us that we could be in groups of 3." So basically, Tori was trying to get them to do all the work. Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a good bit of shithousery.
But
yeah, I can see why Tacha would be like, "You're trying to take advantage of me," kind of thing, though. You know, I don't know. I see both sides.
Dislike. But do you not think as well? Like Tasha is, I think she has the second most social media followers of everyone on this season after Kyle.
No, she's more.
Really?
Yeah, Tasha's 1.7. Kyle's knocking around 1.3. If you're talking Twitter versus Insta, which I think is both their peaks.
Yeah, I think Insta.
Oh, Insta. I still think Tasha's got more thing.
But what I'm saying is she came in as this like queen of Big Brother Nigeria. She's a huge celebrity in Nigeria. And maybe, you know, Tori's, as I say, you know, she's a kind of face of the challenge now. She does the challenge podcast, etc. She's kind of, I feel she's got a bit above her station and, you know, thinks she's a lot more important than she is. And I think maybe seeing Tasha come in as I say, this big star from Nigeria, she got a little bit, you know, oh, I want to be friends with her, but I don't want to be friends with her because I don't want her to take my place type of thing. I don't know. I just feel like it's that.
So I've got
standoff.
I've got a relatively serious point to make here, which is...
Oh my God, that's not on the bingo card. George making a serious point.
You should... Well, you made me do that thing to Fessy after you thought he actually DM'd me. Tori has now deleted her Twitter because of Tasha fans going off on her. Serious? I think when you've... Yeah. It was a couple of posts on the Reddit which have now gone. I don't know if it's back up, but apparently they were all going in on Tori. I think when you've got a rabid fan base, you either need to have the responsibilities to not let them be a dick for no reason other than a game move to other people. I'm not important. If Tasha's fans come for me, bring it on. It'll probably just help raise the profile. But in all seriousness, I don't like social media hate. I think it's pathetic to go at someone from behind the keyboard, and Tasha should at least have her fans to back off Tori.
Yeah, we don't know that she hasn't though. Let's just as of recording, we don't know if she hasn't.
Very good point. I just don't like social media bullying. It really fucks me off.
No, I think that's one of the problems with social media. I think especially around the trilogy days, the Dirty 30, Vendettas, Final Reckoning, there was a lot of that going on. And yet, you know, hopefully that eases / stops as soon as possible, because that's not nice for Tori to have to endure. Because as we always say on here, you know, we're making comments based on the character they're portraying on this TV show.
This is as soon as the
show finishes, you don't go and insult someone on social media. You know,
which is valid, because I actually really enjoyed Tasha's commentary throughout the challenge, throughout the deliberation. I thought she was wonderful and definitely want to see her back. But I don't want that level of fan toxicity ever brought back into the challenge.
Because there was the last person who I feel had that was Cara.
Yes.
Oh shit, yeah.
And that got really bad, if I remember correctly. But also towards her from other people's fans, and then from her fans. And yeah, I do agree. I think, you know, let's all try and separate talking about what happens on the show and discussing it, and discussing the characters on the show and their real life, where we leave them alone and we don't, you know, directly go towards them and treat them like dirt because of something they've done on an entertainment reality show.
I can always rely on you to make my point better than I did, Levi. But now, can we segue to something silly?
Yes, we can. Unfortunately, it's not quite in the running order yet. But what we can segue to is something lovely. And that is potentially my new favorite rookie, Esther, who she gives this is going to be the worst word to use for it, but the most lovely eulogy for Tacha. But for Tasha's challenge career on this season, you know what I mean? Just the stuff that she says about, I've known Tacha for a while. We came into this together. I'm so proud of her. She's made herself proud. She's made Nigeria proud. And also, George, you're probably like this as well. I take a lot of heed from what TJ says to them at the end of eliminations. Yes. And, I'm sure we'll see you back. You did amazing, etc., etc. Very positive performance by Tacha, although she was a lot quieter across the 3 episodes than I expected her to be based on, all that I'd heard about her coming in.
I think part of that is because of the outcome that she had, right? That's one of the theories that I think I have on the edgic portion of it, is that and it's part of the reason why, some of the other good characters in other seasons have smaller roles, is because they don't want us to get attached to that person being there and being a large character and then have them be gone, right? And so I think that maybe that's part of what they were doing with Tacha is sort of limiting the content that she had, knowing that, hey, we only have 3 episodes of her. We don't want people to get attached and stop watching after Tacha goes home. That's the only thing I can think of. Because I, like you, had high expectations for her to come in, pretty loud and fierce. And it feels like Esther has taken on that role more than Tacha.
Yeah, I think I said that on one of the earlier episodes tonight, George, with everything that people had told me about Tacha going in, and, she's this big celebrity in Nigeria, I don't want to compare them just because they're from the same TV show, but, I guess it's no different to when we compared kind of Joss to Kyle because they came in from the UK.
Absolutely.
I expected Tacha to be the kind of one who gave the commentary and the one that got all the focus, but it has been Esther. But I think it kind of puts MTV now with a decision to make, which is, she's got this big following. It seems like she's had a good reaction online. Are they going to bring her back? But MTV aren't the only ones with a decision to make. George, give me that point, because Berna's got a big decision to make as well.
That's your best segue of the episode, by the way.
She can either stick with reigning champion CT, who is now in incredible shape, take Jeremiah, who is a rookie like herself, and therefore automatically put a bullseye on her, or she can infiltrate and steal a male challenger from another pair of agents. Is she going to stay with CT? Is she going to pick Jeremiah? Or is she going to go for number 1 draft pick, Devin Walker? Let's head down to the lair to find out. Let's go. So Berna has made the decision to go with the number 3 draft pick and stay with CT. And CT with that wonderful confessional, screw you, Devin.
I had a lot of laugh out loud moments during this, actually. Like Devin calling Berna weird, cracked me up. That cracked me up. Hughie and Ashley cracked me up. Carl and Amanda cracked me up. This was
Nelly T's Bootcamp cracked you up.
Actually, that really cracked me up. And then I got jealous of his abs. Generally, I just thought this was definitely veering on the side of mainly hilarious as an episode.
One thing that's confused me is Berna from Germany or Turkey, because she's got the German flag on her helmet, but she was on Survivor Turkey, and then she said some stuff about in Turkey we have this tradition that you finish what you started with the people you started it with, which is why she picked CT.
Interesting.
Who the fuck is Berna?
Bertha.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no idea.
Well, I don't know where she's from. She has the German flag, so I just assumed Germany every time, but I didn't even think, because I remember specifically she said in Turkey, we say this. And so I don't know.
Maybe she's from Germany, but maybe she's from Germany, but she lives in Turkey, or she lives in Turkey, but she's got German family or something like that. I don't know.
Along those lines.
It's not that important. What's important is that she's gone for the number 3 draft pick, CT. Well, if you're with him, why leave him at the moment?
Yeah.
Also,
he seems happy with her.
Pre-season, right? I think he was everyone's number 1 draft pick, wasn't he?
Before they even knew that he was coming in ripped.
Oh, he looks so good. It's ridiculous.
It's like, it's not fair. It's not
No.
fair. This seems to be the biggest no-brainer of the season, right? Because she doesn't increase the target on her back in any way. She was already with CT, so it's not like a new person choosing CT. It's just she already had that. She's like, yeah, why am I going to leave the? I feel confident to say the like above anyone else in that house, or CT and anyone else in that house. There's like a wide gap, right? Like it's not necessarily he's the best in my eyes, and then there's someone Corey or anybody right after. It's like no, there's CT. Then a space, then whoever you want to put after that is there, right? So for a no-brainer for me, for her to stay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing as well. Like CT was the best when he came back with Dad Bod, and now he's Dad Bod Brain with
Right.
old school CT. It's almost like we should rename Shamtanam me to CT. Like he's done a phenomenal job in the off season.
Yes.
Also, what you do by sticking with CT is you don't then take someone's partner and then make them an enemy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
I think Jake's right. As soon as someone new picks CT, that is like bullseye tracking straight to them. And that's when I think he's in trouble. Until the vet alliance, that's when they should get him out as fast as they can if they're not idiots.
And what this does is it leads to Big T getting a partner again. She's paired with Jeremiah, which actually helps Jeremiah more than it helps Big T, because now he's out of the rookie partnership.
Yeah.
But speaking of rookie partnerships, that leaves Michelle and Corey Lay as the only rookie team left in the game. They basically have to win the next challenge.
Yes. Otherwise, they're getting voted, like, hands down.
Well, we say that, but our mate Kyle, Mystic Kyle, is here with some foreshadowing in the editing, which we should use our logic to work out what the hell he means. Because at the end of the episode, the last thing we are told is Kyle does a confessional saying it's all good for the Veterans Alliance at the moment, but they've screwed each other over time and time again. They're all snakes, not just me, all of them, and we will turn on each other. Basically, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I'm going to go to you, Jake, on this. Is there a specific reason that was what ended the episode?
Yes, I think so, personally. These end of episode confessionals have been really telling over the first few episodes. In the first one, we hear about how Ed is stronger than he looks, and Kel says something along the lines of like, you know, what are they going to do to me? You know, the most second episode, Esther says something about social game. And then in this episode, we see Tori's social game blow up. So I think these confessionals are really key. And the thing with this one is, I don't know if it's going to happen next week, because next week, seemingly as long as Coriel and Michelle don't win, you throw them in as houseboat and then you pick 2 more rookies to go against them. So the logic part says it's not coming yet, as long as Coriel and Michelle don't win. But it's coming. And I think that they're setting us up. They're really hyping us up for this bloodbath of vets and like a war. So it better be, you know, I want something strategic going. I want good gameplay, right? I want something, because they're hyping it up. They're hyping it up, especially with this confessional.
That's the end of the episode. And, you know, it was nice of them, after depriving us of Kyle for a whole episode, giving us Kyle as the last thing we remember. But from what you remember of this episode, what do you think of it, George?
Really, really good. This is a very, very strong 3 episode, 4 if you count Global Exclamation opening. I gave the first one a 97. I agree with Alan. Last week was an 83. This was better than last week, so this gets a 90. This had so many things I loved in it. Across gameplay, drama, physicality, competition,
good challenges, good mission, good elimination.
Yeah, I enjoyed it all. And Kyle was in it. And I got to see more of Hughie and his fantastic ass.
Jake, who impressed you in this episode? Who do you think has been given the edit for this episode for what's happening going forward?
A few different people did well this episode. I think Michelle managing to stay out of elimination again, and that second person visibility she received from Tori about how, because Tori pretty much said like she's got to go, I think is the exact line she used. So that made me think that she was going this elimination, right? That she was going to be in it this one. So I think Michelle got a really good edit. I think Devin continues to like blow us away, right? Like when has Devin been shown this strategic without it being like slightly comical? Right. It's like not comical at all right now. It's like, wow, like this is done. So Devin and Michelle, I would say, are the top 2 edits of this episode. I have to think about the girls one a little bit more, but Devin would be my top male edit of this episode.
Well, I'm sure George is going to agree. It's been really like fascinating having you on the podcast and just hearing it from a different eye. On one of the recording breaks, you said to us that it's been nice for you to take the edgic hat off and just chat about it. For us, actually, it's been nice to put an edgic hat on and try and think of it from your point of view.
So do you know, Levi, what this feels like is like when you've got 2 people who are hosting a sports game with no fucking idea what's happening, and then they've got the genius in the background. They go, and so Jake, tell us what you see from this play. What are they going to do next? That's generally what it's felt like, is we generally just throw it to you at various points of the episode. And I'm with you, Levi. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. This is absolutely fascinating. You've been a great guest.
This was so much fun. I really appreciate you guys having me on, taking the time to listen to me rant a little bit about some editing stuff, because truly I think we could talk about this stuff for hours, right? 4 hours. So after the season ends, we're going to have to do another one and recap some of the stuff.
We could, but I'm out of wine.
And Jake, if the listeners want to kind of read your edgics or, you know, get in touch with you or follow you, what your socials, tell us about, you know, when you post on Reddit and things like that, so people can watch out.
Absolutely. So I post a formal write-up where I break down each character and how their episode went, how they did, and some storylines, some themes and all that. So generally I post that on Mondays around 10 a.m. Eastern. That's when I was told by some of the mods it's a good time to post. So Mondays mornings, and then usually it stays on that page for the bulk of the day. So and then my social, I have an Instagram right now. It's challenge.edgic. We'll see how long I keep it. I'm very scared that I'll get spoiled, but nonetheless, I really appreciate all the support. I've gotten a lot of positive comments. People off the Levi offering and George offering me to come on the podcast. I feel really, really grateful. So this was so much fun. Thank you to both you two and to everyone else as a whole for participating in it.
Come back later in the season.
Say again?
Come back later in the season.
Oh yeah.
Excellent.
I was going to say, I think it's very interesting that we've had your edgic mind on episode 3, so maybe to get it on like an episode 15 or something, see how much does it change. Definitely. But what I would like to do, based on your edgic mind, let's imagine it's a 1 male, 1 female winner.
Okay.
Right now, based on the edgic, who's winning?
Tough. Okay, for the males, I still feel Emmanuel is the one to beat just because of the few subtleties. I know it's a bold prediction, but I take second person visibility really seriously. And so Devin's comments right now, I'm putting Emmanuel. It's call me crazy. It's either him or Nelson for the guys for me. And Nelson has had too much sloppiness, I think, for me so far, right? It sounds crazy, but for the males, I'm picking Emmanuel. And then for the females, again, this is strictly based off the edit, right? Logic says CT is the no-brainer. And Ashley or Amber for this format. But for the edit, I'm going with the males, Emmanuel, and then the females, even though I don't think she had a great episode this time, Tori's still up there as number 1. And then Amanda, even though she was quiet this episode, has been really strong as an edit. And Amanda is someone that from a logic perspective seems like she would succeed in a final, endurance, puzzles, especially a partnership final. So Amanda and Tori are my 2 top leading girls. And after this episode for Tori, I can't say it's her. So I got to put them both up there.
No, I'm gonna push you on this. You give me one guy, you've got to give me one guy.
Amanda. Okay. Tori had some issues this episode that I'll talk about in the breakdown. But Esther, who has been a reliable narrator so far, mentioned how important a social game is. Tori's social game was exposed this week, and Amanda has had a steady social game with Fessy, with Ashley Nelson, all these different bombs being dropped, and Amanda's been steady. So I got to give it to her right now. Amanda would be my number one.
Fantastic.
I have no idea how those two would end up as partners, but that's a problem for another day.
What we're going to do when you're on next time, I'm going to clip this up and I'm going to play it to you, and we're going to see how well this is aged. Because as George knows, a lot of the stuff that's said on this podcast does not age well. But if you've enjoyed listening to Jake and you want to, read more of his writing, read more about the edgic, as he said, 10 a.m. Eastern on Monday over on the Reddit, give or take a few kind of minutes here and there. You can see it over there, and you can follow him over on Instagram, because as we always say, George, it is important to continue the conversation. And you can do that, as we say, over on the challenge subreddit. You can continue the conversation with us over on our Instagram or Twitter, mainly Instagram, because obviously George hates Twitter, at Challenge React. And yes, as I've already said, next week, George and I won't be joined by a Redditor. We will be joined by a challenger. Our most entertaining rookie so far, Hughie, is coming on the podcast. So it'll be George, myself, and Hughie breaking down next week's episode. But when it comes to next week's episode, we need to get you in the mood. So we're going to leave you with the trailer for next week's ep of The Challenge: Spies, Lies, and Allies.